Chapter 2973. True Saint Battle Strength, Human Die. The black-armored beast's brutal aura rose again. It turned into a stream of light, and rushed toward Jian Wushuang again. Heavenly Sword Marquis, be careful. Someone immediately warned him. Jian Wushuang just smiled and flew out. In the void, Jian Wushuang and the black-armored exotic beast's speed burst out. Bang! Bang! Clang! Several sounds of collision resounded in the void. Jian Wushuang had already fought with the black-armored exotic beast several times. In the void, the afterimages of the two people constantly burst out. Terrifying. The speed of this black-armored exotic beast is too terrifying. In terms of attack power alone, this black-armored beast is probably only comparable to an ordinary first-rank true saint, and might even be inferior. However, its speed is far faster than an ordinary first-rank true saint. With such speed, if this black-armored beast wants to kill us, it will definitely slaughter us. With the speed of this black-armored beast so terrifying, I can immediately do it. After all, the talent of this beast is different from us human cultivators. However, the key point is, how can the speed of this Heavenly Sword Marquis be so fast? Look, he can completely keep up with the speed of the black-armored beast, and even fight it head-on without being at a disadvantage. The four members of the Barbarian King team, who had been pushed back, were stunned. They had just joined hands to block the black-armored beast, but in one move, the black-armored beast had seriously injured them and pushed them back. But now, Jian Wushuang alone had blocked the black-armored beast? Boom! 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 A series of violent explosions still resounded in the sky. Jian Wushuang had blocked the black-armored beast, and on the other side, the Barbarian King, Puyu, and Shuedong King were also attacking the Dragon Flame Beast with all their strength. The Dragon Flame Beast had been seriously injured. Previously, the Barbarian King estimated that they could kill the Dragon Flame Beast within 10 breaths. But in fact, it did not take them 10 breaths. In just the 8th breath, the Barbarian King's huge axe struck the Dragon Flame Beast's huge head. Sparks flew in all directions. Although the Dragon Flame Beast's body protection ability was extremely strong, half of its head was still chopped off by this axe. Then, the killing moves of Puyu and Shuedong King followed. The Dragon Flame Beast was finally killed. It's finally dead. Looking at the Dragon Flame Beast that was already killed, the Barbarian King, Puyu, and Shuedong King were pleasantly surprised. Then they also noticed the scene in the void. Heavenly Sword Marquis. He stopped a true saint-level exotic beast by himself. And this black-armored exotic beast is so powerful. The Barbarian King's eyes were full of surprise. Puyu was also very surprised. Shuedong King was not surprised at all. He was very clear about Jian Wushuang's battle strength. Jian Wushuang could even fight a true saint at the peak of rank 1. So what if he stopped an ordinary true saint-level exotic beast? Roar! 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 From time to time, a series of beast roars or hisses could be heard from the surrounding void. Apparently, a large number of exotic beasts had begun to gather in their direction. The Dragon Flame Beast has been killed. Let's not tangle with these exotic beasts and leave quickly. The Barbarian King shouted in a low voice. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Shuedong King called out to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, and easily got rid of the black-armored exotic beast. Let's go. Everyone in the Barbarian King team immediately left. The black-armored exotic beast did not dare to chase after them. An hour later, in a remote void, everyone in the Barbarian King team stopped. I killed the Dragon Flame Beast, and its body is in my interspatial ring. This mission is much easier than I expected, the Barbarian King said with a laugh. That's true, but it's mainly because our team is very strong, Puyu said with a smile. Yes, it's all thanks to Heavenly Sword Marquis. The Barbarian King immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. He was not the only one. Everyone else could not help looking at Jian Wushuang. Everyone present saw the scene clearly. If Jian Wushuang had not stopped the black-armored beast by himself, they would not have been able to kill it so easily. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I doubted your strength before, but now I apologize to you. And this time it's all thanks to you, the Barbarian King said directly. So do we. The peak false saints beside them said one after another. They had mixed feelings at the moment. When they first saw Jian Wushuang, they did not put him in their eyes at all. Even though Jian Wushuang did not lose in the 3 head-on battles with Ah Chao, they only approved of him and allowed him to join the team, but they still felt a little proud. After all, they were immortal saints, and Jian Wushuang was only a divine master. But now, after the battle with the black-armored beast, the immortal saints in the Barbarian King team no longer had any arrogance. What a joke! Apart from the Barbarian King, Puyu, and Shuedong King, who had true saint battle strength and were not afraid of the black-armored beast, the other 4 people would definitely die if they fought against the black-armored beast alone. However, Jian Wushuang had stopped the black-armored beast alone. His strength was obviously much stronger than theirs. True saint. This heavenly sword marquis definitely has the battle strength of a true saint. These people were secretly shocked and looked at Jian Wushuang with strange eyes. It was incredible that a divine master had the battle strength of a true saint. Monster. This was the evaluation of Jian Wushuang in the hearts of everyone present. Captain, what happened before is over. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's talk about this mission first, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Okay. The Barbarian King nodded and then became serious. As I said before, this mission is very special. There are 2 stages. The first stage is to come to the Dragon Flame world and kill a Dragon Flame beast that is comparable to a true saint. Now that we have completed this mission, we have 2 choices. The first is to give up the second stage of the mission and leave the Dragon Flame world with the corpse of the Dragon Flame beast. We will return to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's nest to hand over the mission. Although we haven't completed the complete mission, we can still get a total of 20 million sacred elixirs, even if we only complete the first stage of the mission. If the 8 of us split the 20 million sacred elixirs, each of us will be able to get quite a bit. At this point, the Barbarian King stopped and looked at the reactions of the people around him. The members of the Barbarian King team also looked at each other at this moment. They all had their own thoughts. Chapter 2974. The second phase of the mission, 20 million sacred elixirs, was indeed not a small amount. There were 8 people on their team. If they split it equally, each of them would be able to obtain 2,500,000 sacred elixirs, which was already quite a large amount. However, even though they were in the same team, the strength of the people in the team was different, and their roles in the process of killing the Dragon Flame beast were also different. Therefore, it was definitely impossible to split the sacred elixirs equally. For example, the Barbarian King was the leader of the Barbarian King team, and was widely recognized as the strongest. The reason why he was able to kill the Dragon Flame beast was largely that he had suppressed the Dragon Flame beast. He had contributed so much, so he must have received more sacred elixirs. Secondly, Jian Wushuang, Puyu, and Shuedong King had contributed a lot, so they naturally received more sacred elixirs. As for the remaining 4 people, they did not contribute much, so they did not share much. Therefore, it was not acceptable for the weaker Peak False Saints to take only 20 million sacred elixirs. Captain, isn't there a second option? The Peak False Saint named Ah Chao looked over. The second option is to continue to complete the second stage of the mission, the Barbarian King said in a low voice. The reward for the second stage of the mission is 10 times that of the first stage, which is 200 million sacred elixirs. Hearing this number, everyone present, except Jian Wushuang, could not help exclaiming, 200 million sacred elixirs. You must know that the divine earth fruit that Jian Wushuang and Shuedong King had obtained was enough for many powerful immortal saints who had comprehended the rules of the earth to fight for. However, if they exchanged it with Sir Tianxua, it's only $100 million worth of sacred elixirs. And the reward of this second stage mission, unexpectedly, was 2 divine earth fruit. For most true saints, such a large sum of sacred elixirs was already an astronomical figure. Many true saints who had reached the 3rd or 4th rank would not be able to produce so many sacred elixirs. Only those above the 5th rank in the immortal saint has stood in the top level of the immortal saint, perhaps only has this ability. 200 million sacred elixirs? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. He was also a little surprised. After all, This was only an Earth-level task. Although it was a 3-star task, the reward should not be so ridiculous. With 200 million sacred elixirs, he believed that even many 1-star and 2-star heaven-level tasks could not have such a high reward. There must be something wrong. Jian Wushuang firmly believed that the second phase of the mission was not to be looked down upon for such a high reward. Everyone in the Barbarian King team knew this, so when they learned about the second phase of the mission's reward, although they were excited, they did not lose their minds. "Captain, what is the second phase of the mission?" Shuidong King asked. Previously, the Barbarian King had only told them about the first phase of the mission. As for the second phase of the mission, they had only heard about it from the Barbarian King. However, no one knew the details of the mission. "This mission?" The Barbarian King frowned. "I don't know the details of the mission. It's just that after we complete the first phase of the mission, we will take the corpse of the Dragon Flame Beast and stay in the Dragon Flame world for another month. After that, we can leave." "Stay for another month?" "That's simple." The members of the Barbarian King team were all stunned. "It looks simple, but the reward for this mission is 200 million sacred elixirs. The difficulty must be extraordinary. Moreover, we don't know the details of this mission. It's filled with all kinds of uncertainties. That's why I'm a little hesitant to continue with the second phase of the mission," said the Barbarian King in a deep voice. "Let's discuss it together." The 8 members of the Barbarian King team immediately began to discuss. They did not know the details of the second phase of the mission, so they were not confident at all. However, the reward of 200 million sacred elixirs made them very tempted. After a simple discussion, everyone had an idea. 200 million sacred elixirs. If we complete it, the 8 of us can split it. Each of us can get at least 20 million sacred elixirs. This is a huge amount of money. For this huge amount of money, I'm willing to give it my all. A Chao was the first to speak. "I'm willing to give it my all." Haha, it seems to be the same. The members spoke one after another. They were all willing to give it their all and continue to complete the second stage of the mission. They could not resist the temptation of 200 million sacred elixirs. Even though they knew that this mission was no small matter, they were willing to give it a try. "I'm willing too." Shuidong King also spoke. Jian Wushuang was the only one among the 8 members of the Barbarian King team who did not express his opinion. Jian Wushuang immediately smiled when he noticed the gazes of the people around him. "Since everyone is interested, he'll naturally accompany you to the end." In the end, he would only be able to get a few tens of millions of sacred elixirs. He did not care too much about it. After all, the Destruction Beast statue he appraised from Lord Tianshou was worth 500 million sacred elixirs. He just did not exchange it. The 8 of them reached an agreement. Then they began to discuss the specific plan for the next step. Here was a stretch of void not far from the Dragon Flame world. In this void, there was a black shrine floating. In the shrine, several figures wearing the same clothes gathered together. It's been more than 10 days since the mission started. The first phase of the mission should be almost complete. What's the result? A middle-aged man wearing a triangular helmet spoke. His voice was loud and clear, echoing throughout the entire shrine. "Sir, there are a total of 34 teams that have accepted the mission that we issued in the Dragon Flame world. 13 of these 36 teams have completed the first phase of the mission. As for the other 23 teams," a man in black beside him said respectfully. The members of the Barbarian King team did not know that they were not the only team that had accepted this mission. There were a total of 34 teams. Moreover, these 34 teams were all in the Dragon Flame world right now. It was just that they had not seen each other yet. Of the remaining 23 teams, 3 teams were defeated by the exotic beasts on the way to the mission. The remaining 20 teams were too slow. Most of the first-ranked True Saint Dragon Flame beasts in the Dragon Flame world have already been killed by the other teams. Send a message to the team leaders who killed the Dragon Flame beasts and ask them if they are willing to continue with the second phase of the mission. As for those who haven't completed the first phase of the mission yet, tell them that their mission has failed and ask them to leave the Dragon Flame world immediately. The middle-aged man with the triangular helmet said coldly. Yes. The black-clothed man nodded and immediately sent the message. Chapter 2975. His Highness. After a short while, the man in black received a reply from each team. My lord, among the 13 teams that have completed the mission, only one team has given up. The other 12 teams are all willing to continue with the second phase of the mission. As for those that have not completed the first phase of the mission, they have already begun to leave, the man in black said. 12 teams. The man in the triangular helmet nodded slightly. As expected, the attraction of 200 million sacred elixirs is really huge. Only one of the 13 teams is willing to give up. Looks like they all want to complete the mission. Tell them to rest and adjust for 10 days in the Dragon Flame world. The second phase of the mission will begin in 10 days. Yes. The man in black nodded respectfully. At this moment, the man in the triangular helmet's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately stood up. His Highness Qianshen has entered the wormhole, and will arrive soon. What? So fast? Everyone in the Divine Hall was shocked. Let's go. Follow me to welcome His Highness Qianshen. The man in the triangular helmet immediately led the people in the Divine Hall outside. In front of a majestic wormhole, the man with the triangular helmet and 6 men in black, under him, stood there respectfully, and waited quietly. After a short while, the wormhole in front of them erupted with a blinding light. Then a figure slowly stepped out of the wormhole. The person was dressed in a black robe, and was only about 1.7 meters tall. He carried a battle saber on his back. His face was handsome, and his eyes were long and narrow. As soon as he appeared, his sharp eyes immediately swept toward the triangular-shaped battle helmet man and the others. Greetings, Your Highness Qianshen. The triangular-shaped battle helmet man and the 6 black-clothed men immediately bowed respectfully. However, both the triangular-shaped battle helmet man and the 6 black-clothed men had already reached the true saint level, especially the triangular-shaped battle helmet man, whose aura had reached the 3rd level true saint. He was definitely a true expert. The aura emitted by the black-robed young man, His Royal Highness Qianshen, who made them bow respectfully, had yet to reach the true saint level. That's right, His Highness Qianshen was merely a false saint, a peak false saint. However, it was this peak false saint who made the 7 true saints in front of them, including the man in the triangular helmet, extremely respectful. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. Let's go in and talk, Prince Qianshen said. The man in the triangular helmet immediately led Prince Qianshen into the Divine Hall. Your Highness, this is the target of Your Highness' mission this time. It contains the information of 12 squads of experts. The man in the triangular helmet handed a jade slip to Prince Qianshen. Thank you for your trouble. Prince Qianshen nodded slightly, but casually threw the jade slip to the side. Your Highness, aren't you going to take a look? The man in the triangular helmet asked in puzzlement. Some of the strongest cultivators are only 1st-level true saints. What's there to look at? This mission isn't difficult at all for me, His Highness Qianshen said. His words were very casual. He was not boasting, but it was true. He did not take it to heart at all. When the man with the triangular helmet saw this, he could only sigh in his heart, but he did not doubt Prince Qianshen's strength at all. As expected of the top genius from the Heaven and Earth Palace. He's clearly only a peak false saint, and has just broken through not long ago. But he doesn't put ordinary 1st-level true saints in his eyes, the man with the triangular helmet thought. Right, how much longer until the mission starts? Prince Qianshen asked. 10 days. The man in the triangular helmet replied. I'll stay here for 10 days. When the mission starts, you can call me. His Highness Qianshen replied. Yes. The man in the triangular helmet nodded. His Highness Qianshen immediately closed his eyes and entered a state of comprehension. Only 10 days. Yet he still didn't forget to comprehend. He's already a genius disciple of the Heaven and Earth Palace. Yet he still works so hard. The man in the triangular helmet sighed in his heart before he left. This triangular-shaped man was only an expert from the outer circle of the War Sky Alliance. He had no access to the true core of the War Sky Alliance. He had only heard of the 3 palaces of the War Sky Alliance, but he did not know much about them. If he knew more, he definitely would not think this way. One had to know that the three palaces of the War Sky Alliance were the top genius gathering camps in the beginning divine world. Those who could enter the three palaces were all super geniuses at the monster level. With so many super geniuses gathered together, there was naturally competition. Moreover, this competition was exceptionally intense and even crazy. In such an environment, naturally, no one dared to relax. Each and every one of them fought with their lives. Yet this Prince Qianshun was just like this. 10 days. Although it was short, this Prince Qianshun was still in the midst of comprehending. Very quickly, 10 days had passed. The triangular-shaped battle helmet man once again appeared in front of this Prince Qianshun. Prince Qianshun, the time has already passed. Your Highness can set off now. The triangular-shaped battle helmet man respectfully said. Amen. Prince Qianshun acknowledged. His gaze had already opened. After a long while, this Prince Qianshun passed through the spatial passageway and descended into the Dragon Flame world. The experts of the 12 teams who were still in the Dragon Flame world did not know that such a genius expert had arrived. Only the man with the triangular helmet and the black-clothed men under him started to pity them. 200 million sacred elixirs is indeed a big temptation. Unfortunately, not everyone can get such a big reward. I wonder how many of the 12 teams will survive after His Highness Qianshun's massacre. In a vast void in the Dragon Flame world, Buzz, a young man wearing a black robe and carrying a saber appeared here. He had a jade slip in his hand. The jade slip contained the information of the experts who were still in the 12 teams in the Dragon Flame world. It also included the positions of the 12 teams. His Highness Qianshun still did not look at the information of the experts of the 12 teams. Instead, he looked at the positions of the 12 teams. Then, he directly rushed toward the team closest to him. This was a barren plain without any signs of life. The land of this plain had already turned completely yellow. Not to mention human cultivators. Even the strange beasts of the Dragon Flame world rarely lived in this barren plain. However, one of the 12 teams was currently hiding in this barren plain. This team had a total of 6 people. Chapter 2976. Easily killed a cave dwelling that had been temporarily opened up. The 6 experts of the team gathered together. Although there were only 6 people in this team, their lineup was extremely strong. There were 3 true saints of the first rank alone, and the remaining 3 were also extremely powerful peak false saints. They had also killed a true saint-level dragon flame beast, even though they had been hiding here. This mission is really strange. They didn't tell me the details of the second phase of the mission, and just let us stay in the Dragon Flame world for another month. Could it be that something big will happen in the Dragon Flame world within this 1 month? A true saint expert said. Who knows? I've been an Earth-rank member of the War Sky Alliance for a long time, and I've received quite a few missions. However, I've never encountered such a strange mission. I wonder who the War Sky Alliance is issuing the mission to. What are they thinking about? Another person said. All right, stop complaining. The leader of the team, a bald old man, said. No matter what we will encounter in this mission, we only need to stay here for a month. At most, we can hide here for a month. No matter what happens in the outside world, don't go out. As long as we can stay here for a month, we can get a total of 200 million sacred elixirs. Upon hearing the 200 million sacred elixirs, the eyes of the other members of the team turned scarlet. In fact, very few people were willing to accept missions like this, where they did not even know the details of the mission. But this time, it was because the reward of 200 million sacred elixirs was too attractive. No one could resist the temptation of 200 million sacred elixirs. At this moment, His Highness Qianshun, who had just arrived in the Dragon Flame world, had already arrived in the wilderness and arrived outside the cave abode, where the team was located. Boom! A majestic divine power from the body of Prince Qianshun swept up, and directly toward the cave to the impact. Hiding in the cave and the 6 people immediately reacted whoosh, 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 whoosh. 6 figures shot into the sky at once. In the void, the 6 strong men of this squad, one by one, glared at the black-robed young Prince Qianchen in front of them. Where is the boy, dare to destroy my 6 people's cave seek death? A peak false saint immediately shouted. His Highness Qianchen's gaze was cold as he swept across the 6 people in front of him. He coldly said, I'll give you 2 choices. The first is to hand over the dragon flame beast's corpse that you've killed before, and leave the dragon flame world. The second is to die. Hearing this, the 6 people in this team were so angry that they laughed. Haha, where did this idiot come from? He's just a peak false saint. Yet he still dares to speak so shamelessly in front of the 6 of us. He's really courting death. Don't waste your breath on him. Kill him before. Kill. The 3 weaker peak false saints in this 6-man team immediately moved. 3 majestic auras directly pressed down on Prince Qianchen. As for the 3 true saints in the team, they just watched with faint smiles on their faces. They had no intention of making a move. In their eyes, both sides were peak false saints. With 3 against 1, this black-robed man with a battle saber on his back was dead for sure. But suddenly, Prince Qianchen made his move. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of the 3 peak false saints charging over. The battle blade behind him was instantly unsheathed. Whoosh! A blade light slashed out mercilessly. This blade light was clearly just casually slashed out, but it contained the endless power of the laws of darkness. The power of the laws of darkness was far denser than these peak false saints had imagined, and the blade light even grew bigger along the way. It instantly engulfed the 3 peak false saints. Careful! The 3 peak false saints also sensed it, and they instinctively attacked with all their strength, trying to block this blade light. But in the end, the blade light mercilessly swept past, and the 3 peak false saints were all killed, leaving behind 3 cold corpses. What? The other 3 true saints who were in the air not far away were all shocked when they saw this scene. 1 against 3, and he killed 3 peak false saints with a blade. What kind of battle power was this? It's your turn. Prince Qianchen's expression was cold. With a flash, he appeared in front of the 3 true saints, as if he had teleported. Block him. The bald elder, who was the team leader and the strongest of the 3 true saints, was the first to react. He brandished a huge hammer and smashed it out with boundless divine power. Divine lightning crackled and formed a lightning prison that charged toward Prince Qianchen. Prince Qianchen's gaze was still cold as he casually waved the battle saber in his hand. The lightning prison, which also carried the endless power of the law of darkness, instantly collapsed. However, this dark saber light continued to stand on top of the bald old man's divine body with shocking power. The bald old man was a first-level true saint after all, and his protective ability was not weak. However, under this saber light chi, his divine body started to crumble. Wung! With one slash, the bald elder's divine body completely crumbled. Impossible! He's this strong. The other 2 true saints were completely stunned. One slash had caused the divine body of a rank 1 true saint to crumble. This strength had definitely surpassed the level of a rank 1 true saint. So, Princess Qianchen's figure once again flickered, and then shwa, another 2 slashes descended. The 2 true saints did not even have time to react before they were swept away by the blade light, and their divine bodies also collapsed. In just an instant, the divine bodies of the 3 true saints in this team had already been directly destroyed. However, true saints could control their immortal bodies and rely on divine power to replenish their divine bodies. A large amount of divine power began to gather, and the bald old man's divine body was the first to recover. However, after recovering, the bald old man was extremely terrified. Too terrifying. This person's strength is too terrifying. He destroyed my divine body with a single slash. Although I can reassemble my divine body, reassembling it once would consume close to 30% of my divine power. If that's the case, he would only need 4 slashes at most to truly kill me. Run! The bald old man did not hesitate at all, and immediately chose to flee. He knew very well that this black-robed young man's strength was only that of Prince Qianchen's. He was not someone he could contend against. Not to mention him alone, even if the 3 true saints joined forces, they would not be able to contend against him. They would only be easily killed by the other party. He's the strongest in this team. The dragon flame beast's corpse should be on him. A sharp light flashed in Prince Qianshen's eyes as he instantly chased after the bald old man. The purpose of this trip was that his mission was not to kill all the experts from the 12 squads, but to kill the corpse of the dragon flame beast in the hands of the 12 squads. Chapter 2977, Slaughter No! Spare me! The bald old man let out a shrill scream. He wanted to beg for mercy from Qianshen, but it was too late. Qianshen chased after the bald old man and slashed again. The bald old man did not have any room to struggle. His god body collapsed again. Then, when the bald old man's body reassembled, the saber light continued to slash out. This happened only 3 times. The bald old man's body reassembled 4 times, but his divine power was completely exhausted. In the end, he was still killed by His Highness Qianshen. After the bald old man died, His Highness Qianshen picked up his interspatial ring. He scanned it with his consciousness and nodded slightly. The dragon flame beast's corpse was indeed in the bald old man's hands. Those 2 fled really quickly. His long and narrow eyes glanced at the distant void. At the same time that he killed the bald old man, the divine bodies of the 2 true saint companions of the bald old man had already reassembled. They immediately fled, and could not care about the life and death of the bald old man at all. His Highness Qianshen also had no way to chase after them. After all, it would indeed take some effort to kill a true saint expert who had an immortal body. Even if he was much stronger than the bald old man, and could destroy the other party's divine body with 1 strike, the other party could still reconstruct his divine body. Under such circumstances, he could only focus on the bald old man alone. 12 teams, 1 team has been dealt with. There are 11 left. A cold smile appeared on Prince Qianshen's lips, and then he set off again. In the void outside the dragon flame world, in the black dot shrine, the triangular-shaped battle helmet man, and the 6 black-clothed men, under his command were all gathered together. In front of them was a huge mirror image. In the mirror image, the scene of what happened to Prince Qianshen in the dragon flame world. Too powerful. Prince Qianshen is too powerful. Prince Qianshen is only a peak false saint, and not a true saint. He doesn't even have an immortal body yet. But when he killed a rank 1 true saint, it was as if he killed a chicken. With 1 slash, he destroyed a powerful rank 1 true saint's divine body. As expected of a super genius from the Heaven and Earth Palace. His combat power is really strong. The 6 black-clothed men were continuously praising and sighing. Clearly, the scene that appeared on the screen made them feel extremely shocked. As for the triangular-shaped battle helmet man, his expression was also quite interesting. Heaven and Earth Palace. As far as I know, the Heaven and Earth Palace is only the lowest amongst the 3 most core palaces of our Sky War Alliance. Above them are the Primal Palace and the Primal Chaos Palace. The geniuses of these 2 palaces are truly terrifying, especially the Primal Chaos Palace. Rumor has it that as long as a super genius from the Primal Chaos Palace doesn't die, he or she will definitely be able to comprehend a law and become the Master of Laws. Master of Laws. The 6 black-robed men looked at each other, their eyes filled with endless shock. In their eyes, it was already heaven-defying enough for Prince Qianshen to easily kill a first-level true saint as a peak false saint. However, he only came from the Heaven and Earth Palace, which was the lowest of the 3 palaces. They could not imagine how terrifying the geniuses from the Primal Palace and Primal Chaos Palace, who were even higher than the Heaven and Earth Palace, were. Those teams in the Dragon Flame world are going to be in big trouble. The man in the triangular helmet sighed quietly. The truth was true as the man in the triangular helmet had expected. This Prince Qianshen was too powerful. He was so powerful that he had definitely surpassed the level of a first-level true saint. Although he was alone, he could do whatever he wanted in the Dragon Flame world. Moreover, he still had the positions of the 12 teams. According to the positions in the Jade Slip, he went to them one by one. First, he asked them to hand over the corpse of the Dragon Flame beast. If they did not agree, he would take action immediately. Under his thunderous methods, the teams could not resist at all. One by one, The teams were mercilessly massacred by His Highness Qianshen. In fact, as long as these teams brought the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse and stayed in the Dragon Flame world for a month, they would be rewarded with 200 million sacred elixirs. However, only 10 days had passed in this month, and 1/3 had passed. 8 out of the 12 teams had already been defeated. The Dragon Flame Beast corpse in the hands of these 8 squads had also fallen into the hands of Prince Qianshen. 12 days after the mission began, this Prince Qianshen had found the 9th squad hidden within the Dragon Flame world. And this squad was surprisingly the Barbarian King squad. Bang! Similarly, majestic divine power rose from Prince Qianshen's body, directly charging toward the cave abode where the 8 Barbarian King squads were hiding. The 8 Barbarian King team members were immediately alerted and appeared in the void. The Barbarian King team members stared at Prince Qianshen with strange expressions. Jian Wushuang was also looking at Prince Qianshen. This man, Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. Although he sensed that the man's aura was only at the peak of the false saint realm, his sense of smell from the long years of slaughter and crisis told him that this black-robed young man was not simple. Who are you? The Barbarian King's voice was cold as he stared at Prince Qianshen. You don't have the right to know my name. Prince Qianshen appeared a little arrogant. I'll give you 2 choices. First, hand over the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse and leave the Dragon Flame world. Second, die. What a joke, the Barbarian King roared. But he did not care about his identity as a true saint. He took a step forward and attacked. As soon as the Barbarian King attacked, the terrifying power immediately pressed down on Prince Qianshen. At the same time, the huge axe on his back appeared in his hand. Everyone in the Barbarian King team was shocked when they saw the Barbarian King's attack. From what they knew, Mantai was someone who cared about his identity. His opponent was only a peak false saint. Under normal circumstances, Mantai would not attack by himself. Even if he wanted to attack, he would not do his best in the beginning. But now the Barbarian King's aura soared. A layer of pale golden armor appeared on his body. The giant axe in his hand was also very powerful. Obviously, the Barbarian King had used his full strength and unleashed his strongest battle strength. This was even more surprising. Only Jian Wushuang could understand the Barbarian King's intention. The Barbarian King must have realized that this man is not to be trifled with, so he attacked with his full strength. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and stared at the black-robed young man, who was only a peak false saint. Suddenly, the black-robed young man, who was also Prince Qianshen, attacked. He only attacked casually, but when the dazzling saber light appeared in the world, everyone in the Barbarian King team was shocked and furious. Chapter 2978. Concealing one's aura? That slash was too bright and dazzling. However, at the same time it appeared too dark. It was as if there was no end to the darkness, and the sky was boundless. Wherever the slash went, everything seemed like a piece of paper. Not good. The Barbarian King turned pale with fright. Although Jian Wushuang could tell that the Barbarian King was not weak, so he had tried his best from the beginning, he was still shocked when his opponent attacked him. This saber attack carried an earth-shaking power that even he could not help but feel suffocated. Without any hesitation, he immediately used his strongest axe, using all of his power to block this saber attack. Clang! The sound of metal colliding was heard. At the same time, the Barbarian King's body started to shake crazily. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his divine body almost collapsed. The Barbarian King did not say anything and immediately retreated. Prince Qianshen glanced at the Barbarian King in surprise. You could take my attack head-on, but your divine body didn't collapse. You're not bad. Die! A stern shout suddenly sounded, and 2 figures appeared behind Prince Qianshen at some point in time. These 2 figures were none other than Puyu and Shuedong King. Both of them had the battle power of a true saint. When they saw that Prince Qianshen's strength was extraordinary, they immediately launched a sneak attack to kill him. However, Prince Qianshen had already noticed it. Ridiculous. His Highness Qianshen smiled faintly and casually waved the battle saber in his hand. It was like a black moon that directly covered both Puyu and Shuedong King. The black moon contained a shocking blade intent. Puyi's divine body immediately collapsed from that. As for Shuedong King, he only possessed the combat strength of a true saint. He was not a true saint, and had yet to control his undying body. Once his divine body collapsed, he would definitely die. Fortunately, Shuedong King had obtained 50 million sacred elixirs in one go. He had used them to exchange for many treasures from Lord Tianshou, including a powerful protective treasure. Because of this protective treasure, he survived the attack, and did not die immediately. However, he also spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood in a row. He could not be more miserable. Shuedong King. Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and he immediately stepped forward. He did not care who died in the Barbarian King team, but Shuedong King had a good relationship with him. Brother Heavenly Marquis. Shuedong King's face was pale. He was so weak that he could barely stand. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and said in a deep voice, "This man is too strong. We can't fight him. It's up to you." "Okay." Jian Wushuang nodded, and then looked at Prince Qianchen. Prince Qianchen's target was the corpse of the dragon flame beast. After destroying the divine body of Puyu, and severely injuring Shuedong King, he had already charged toward the Barbarian King again. He could see that the Barbarian King was the strongest in the Barbarian King team. 80% of the corpse of the dragon flame beast was beaten up by the Barbarian King. Boom! Boom! Facing the terrifying power of Prince Qianchen, the Barbarian King could not resist at all. In just a moment, his body collapsed and began to reassemble for the first time. Prince Qianchen stood at the place where the Barbarian King's body reassembled. He waited for his body to finish reassembling before he attacked again, and caused the Barbarian King's body to collapse for the second time. But at this moment, whoosh! A figure suddenly came from the void next to him. His Highness Qianchen glanced at the void next to him, and found that the aura coming from the person who came to kill him was only that of a divine master. A divine master? His Highness Qianchen had a strange look on his face. However, at the same time that this divine master moved, the god power aura on his body suddenly soared. At the same time, a large amount of golden god power condensed behind him, forming a 30,000 feet tall golden emperor phantom. The golden eyes of the golden emperor phantom looked down on everything, causing Prince Qianchen to be a little surprised. The 7-star secret technique, the Heaven Punisher, and the 9 luminary star armor had all been used. Hua! An ice-cold sword light flew over like an arc of lightning. Prince Qianchen did not care at first. He just waved his right hand, and the battle saber in his hand mercilessly descended. This saber also contained great power, enough to easily kill a peak false saint. Even an ordinary first-level true saint's divine body would probably collapse under this saber. Using such a saber to kill a supreme god was simply overkill. But in the end, clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out. His Highness Qianchen actually felt his right hand sink. This was because it was affected by a huge force. Prince Qianchen raised his head in surprise and saw a cold gray mask. Humph! With a low shout, Prince Qianchen swept his saber essence, and moved his body instantly. Whoosh! 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 As if teleporting, Prince Qianchen moved through the void. The strange and dark saber light appeared behind Jian Wushuang, and slashed toward his head. However, the saber light did not touch anything solid. After image, Prince Qianchen was shocked. He had already noticed that a large number of sword shadows were attacking him. Prince Qianchen also drew his saber instantly. Clang! 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 In the blink of an eye, dozens of metal-like sounds were heard in the void. Every time they collided, a surge of divine power burst out. In the surrounding void, the Barbarian King team members, including the Barbarian King and Puyu, whose divine bodies had been reconstructed, were also shocked. This speed. Fast, too fast. What a terrifying speed. Previously, the captain also burst out his full speed, but now, the speed burst out by the black-robed young man, and Heavenly Sword Marquis, is at least 10 times faster than the captain's full speed. Moreover, the power unleashed by the two of them, the members of the Barbarian King team, could clearly sense the terrifying power contained in the sword light and saber shadow. The power of any saber move was ridiculously strong. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the void, the two figures who had exchanged more than 100 head-on blows finally pulled away. A strange light flashed in Prince Qianshen's eyes as he stared at Jian Wuxuang with bright eyes. It seems that I was wrong. I thought you were just a divine master. But now it seems that you are the most powerful expert on this team. Your battle strength is probably at the peak of a rank 1 true saint. However, your ability to hide your aura is really amazing. I can't see through it at all. Hide your aura. Jian Wuxuang smiled wickedly. He did not hide his aura at all. His true realm was only that of a divine master. However, His Highness Qianshen thought that he was too strong and was beyond the realm of a divine master, so he thought that he was just hiding his aura. Chapter 2979, Second Level True Saint. I thought this mission was not challenging at all, but now it seems that I'm lucky enough to meet you, which makes this mission a little more interesting. Prince Qianshen grinned, his figure suddenly swayed. Whoosh! Even Jian Wuxuang could only see a flash of black light. So fast! He's even faster than before. Jian Wuxuang was shocked. At the same time, he found that His Highness Qianshen had already appeared beside him, and a beautiful saber light lit up. The saber light was gorgeous and colorful, leaving a vast saber river in the void. The saber river was boundless, but it was exuding a terrifying power. This saber, Jian Wuxuang's pupils constricted. He could clearly sense that the power of this saber was much stronger than the many saber lights that Prince Qianshen had displayed before. This saber had completely exceeded the scope of a first-rank true saint. Humph! With a cold snort, Jian Wuxuang immediately made his move. Boundless divine power surged out from his body. An endless sword essence gathered in the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. As he swung his sword, a large number of space-time blades with sword shadows immediately emerged clearly, forming a huge blade storm in the blink of an eye. It was the 9th move of space-time swordsmanship, Storm. It was also the strongest sword move that Jian Wuxuang had created so far. In the past 80 years, as Jian Wuxuang's understanding of space-time rules and sword principle improved, the power of the first move of Storm also greatly increased. The greatsword Storm had completely covered the void in front of him. However, the brilliant blade river directly swept past, and the sword Storm directly collapsed from the center. Jian Wuxuang's sword move also collapsed instantly. In terms of absolute arts, the Storm move that I created is ultimately too low level. Jian Wuxuang sighed lightly. After the brilliant blade river destroyed the sword Storm, it continued to attack him, forcing him to continuously retreat. It took him a long time to stop. However, after he stopped, he waved his hand. Swish! 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 Streaks of cyan streamers rushed out. These cyan streamers shuttled through the void rapidly, and then floated in front of Jian Wuxuang. These gray streamers were cyan longswords. They were star luo swords. There were a total of 18 star luo swords. Each of them emitted the aura of a third-grade superior holy treasure. Condense! As Jian Wuxuang uttered the word, the 18 star luo swords immediately condensed together at the fastest speed. In an instant rumble, an earth-shaking rumble sounded, and a huge spiral tunnel that emitted the power of endless reincarnation rules appeared between heaven and earth. This spiral tunnel was like the reincarnation tunnel that led to reincarnation, mysterious, vast, and unfathomable. However, in the reincarnation tunnel, a brilliant green light was faintly discernible. Go! Jian Wuxuang's eyes turned cold, and the faintly discernible green light in the reincarnation tunnel suddenly shot out. The green light was extremely long and carried a huge green tail. It was dozens of meters long, but it was not large in size, but it was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already appeared in front of Prince Qianshen. 5th level of the reincarnation sword formation, Saint Beheading. Prince Qianshen's expression became a little grave, as he seemed to have seen the extraordinary nature of this sword formation. Immediately, he swung the battle blade in his hand. With this swing, endless darkness was directly covered over. Clang! A low and deep sound of metal colliding sounded. The reincarnation sword formation formed by the 18 star luo swords paused for a moment, before it was immediately sent flying backwards. However, Prince Qianshen's body suddenly sank. His right arm, which was holding the saber, sank and he took 3 steps back. This sword formation is so powerful. Prince Qianshen was shocked. Again, Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. Under the control of his will, the samsara sword formation, which had been sent flying, once again turned into a cyan-colored flowing light and shot out. Boom! Boom! The cyan light and the huge cyan tail appeared in front of His Highness Qianshen again. Haha, good timing. This is interesting. His Highness Qianshen was not surprised. His divine power surged, and his aura immediately rose. Then he charged out with his saber and fought head-on with the reincarnation sword formation. At the same time, His Highness Qianshen collided with the reincarnation sword formation. Jian Wushuang tightened his grip on the Blood Mountain sword, and a supreme sword essence suddenly rose. This sword essence was supreme, like the ruler of sword principle, dominating the world. With the help of the sword essence, Jian Wushuang's battle strength instantly soared to a new level. He glanced at Prince Qianshen with a bright light in his eyes. Kill! With a low shout, Jian Wushuang dashed out in an instant. Whoosh! 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 Numerous cold and sharp sword lights were directly displayed in Jian Wushuang's hands. He had already used many secret skills, and now he had guided the sword essence. His battle strength and essence realm had reached their peak. Each of the sword lights displayed was ridiculously strong and astonishingly fast. The densely packed sword lights crazily attacked Prince Qianshen. Although Prince Qianshen's strength was shocking, he did not dare to ignore Jian Wushuang's sword lights. He had to spare a lot of energy to resist them. However, under Jian Wushuang's control, the reincarnation sword formation also attacked him time and time again. The reincarnation sword formation contained terrifying power, and even he did not dare to underestimate it. Prince Qianshen was embarrassed. Dang! 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 Clang! Only to see a continuous sound from the battlefield from the middle of the transmission. Barbarian king team of people, but have been staring blankly. Isn't that a little too strong? He's too strong. The black-robed youth who used the saber has terrifying saber techniques, and his comprehension of the laws of darkness has reached an unbelievable level. Although he's only a peak false saint, his battle strength has definitely surpassed that of a first-rank true saint. Yes, he definitely has the battle strength of a second-rank true saint. A peak false saint has battle strength comparable to a rank 2 true saint? Where did this monster come from? The members of the Barbarian King team could not help exclaiming in surprise. However, if the strength displayed by Prince Qianshen only shocked them, then it would be completely unbelievable. However, Jian Wushuang, who fought with Prince Qianshen in a head-on battle, and even had a slight advantage, was completely incredible. After all, Jian Wushuang was only a divine master. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I think I'm dreaming. It's impossible. It's impossible. I've never seen a divine master who could fight with a rank 2 true saint. Unless he hid his aura. Chapter 2980. Fierce battle hiding his aura? Right at this moment, everyone in the Barbarian King team began to doubt whether Jian Wushuang was hiding his aura. It could not be helped. The battle strength that Jian Wushuang displayed was too terrifying. It was already comparable to a second-rank true saint. How could he only be a divine master with such terrifying battle strength? It was not just the Barbarian King team. Outside the Dragon Flame world, the triangular-shaped man in the Dark Temple and his 6 men in black were gathered together. In the mirror image in front of them, Jian Wushuang and Prince Qianshen were fighting head-on. The two of them were engaged in a heated battle, and it was obvious that Prince Qianshen was slightly below them. How is this possible? Among the experts of the 12 teams, there is actually someone who is on par with Prince Qianshen, and even has a slight advantage? You must be joking. The man in the triangular helmet and his 6 subordinates were stunned. What really stunned them was the divine power aura that Jian Wushuang emitted. Divine Master, this man is just a divine master? A black-clothed man exclaimed. No, it can't be a divine master. He must have deliberately concealed his aura. Quick, find out who this man is and his specific realm. The man in the triangular helmet ordered. Yes. A black-clothed man answered immediately, and immediately handed a piece of information to the man in the triangular helmet. We've investigated it clearly. This person is called Heavenly Sword Marquis. He and a peak false saint in his team, named Shuedong King, came from the 385th layer. According to the information, Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed only at the Divine Master level, the black-clothed man said respectfully. He is indeed only at the Divine Master level? The man in the triangular helmet was stunned. The few black-clothed men were also at a loss. In the beginning Divine Realm, geniuses were as numerous as the clouds. They were all clear about this point. For example, His Highness Qianshun was clearly a peak false saint. Moreover, he had just broken through not long ago. Yet his battle prowess was comparable to a second-level true saint. This kind of talent could be considered to be the best in the entire beginning Divine Realm. That was why he was qualified to join the Heaven and Earth Palace. He would become a prince of the Heaven and Earth Palace. However, no matter how heaven-defying Prince Qianshun was, he was still a peak false saint. The difference between a peak false saint and a second-level true saint was only 2 levels. They could still accept it. However, the Heavenly Sword Marquis who appeared in front of them and could contend against Prince Qianshun was only a Divine Master. There was a difference of 3 realms between a Divine Master and a second-level true saint. There was a huge difference between them. How could they accept this? Yes, sir. A black-robed man looked at the man in the triangular helmet carefully. Quick, contact the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Union and tell them that we have found a super monster. A super monster that is even stronger than Qianshun. No, it is 10 or even 100 times stronger than your Qianshun. The eyes of the man in the triangular helmet shone with an unprecedented light. Send the message. Yes. The black-clothed men immediately sent the message while trembling. The man in the triangular helmet stared at the mirror image in front of him. In the mirror image, Jian Wushuang and His Highness Qianshun were already fighting head-on. Clang, 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 clang. The two had been fighting crazily hundreds of times in the void. Whoosh, whoosh. The two figures finally separated again. Haha, awesome, awesome. Wearing a black robe and holding a saber, His Highness Qianshun's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He did not change his expression at all, because he was slightly at a disadvantage in the fierce battle. As for Jian Wushuang, he looked very serious. This guy is just a peak false saint, but his battle strength is so amazing. I have perfectly displayed the 5th level of the reincarnation sword formation, Saint Slayer, and my own sword skills. But when I fought with him, I only gained a slight advantage. I can see that he has more powerful skills that he hasn't used yet, Jian Wushuang murmured. He had lived for 2 lifetimes and had lived until now. He had fought countless battles with others and had encountered countless dangers and tribulations. His intuition had always been very accurate. Right now, he felt that this black-robed young man in front of him should still have some tricks up his sleeve. As expected, this black-robed young man, His Highness Qianshun, moved once again. You come and receive another strike from me. His Highness Qianshun's voice shook the sky and reverberated with a rumble. While he was speaking, he had already raised the saber in his hand high up. When he raised it, a powerful saber intent instantly started to gather in his saber. There was also a large amount of black air flowing out from his divine body, causing the void around him to turn completely dark. Even his eyes became pitch black and deep, like the stars in the sky and earth. Standing there, His Highness Qianshun had not swung his saber yet, but the terrifying saber essence and power had already suffocated the experts of the Barbarian King team around the battlefield. It was also quiet in the sky and earth. This saber move! Jian Wushuang stared at His Highness Qianshun with a hint of shock in his eyes. He could feel the shocking power contained in the saber. This power made him a little shocked. Die! Prince Qianshun finally attacked. He waved the saber in his hand. The world was still calm, but under this tranquility, a Milky Way swept out directly. This Milky Way came from the 9 heavens. It was beautiful, magnificent, and majestic. As soon as it appeared, The experts of the Barbarian King team were instantly intoxicated and could not extricate themselves for a long time. Even Jian Wushuang had never seen such a beautiful and intoxicating saber light. He was almost absent-minded, but after experiencing countless life-and-death battles, he was able to remain absolutely rational. When the Milky Way attacked, he immediately made his move. Swish! The 18-star Luo swords exerted their power to the maximum. The power of the Samsara sword formation suddenly soared and pierced through. But the result was bang! With a loud sound, the Samsara sword formation shook crazily and directly collapsed, turning back into 18 divine swords. Sure enough, the power of this move is too strong. The Samsara sword formation can't withstand it. I'm afraid that even if I use Storm, I won't be able to block this move head-on, Jian Wushuang muttered, but his eyes were exceptionally calm. Seeing that the beautiful Milky Way was about to reach him, Jian Wushuang gently raised his hand. Buzz! The power of time and space suddenly burst out. Space-time divine skill 1 point heaven skill. Chapter 2981. Heaven and Earth Palace. Qianchen, the heaven-designated skill, could freeze time and space for a short period of time. This move was one of Jian Wushuang's trump cards. With Jian Wushuang's current divine power and comprehension of the space-time rules, ordinary immortal saints would not be able to resist this move. However, Jian Wushuang did not use heaven-designated skills to attack Prince Qianchen. Instead, he used it to attack the dazzling Milky Way, which was the saber technique Prince Qianchen used. Buzz! Affected by the heaven-designated skill, the space-time around the dazzling Milky Way froze, and the Milky Way stopped in its tracks. Although the time-space stagnation had disappeared in an instant, and the brilliant Milky Way continued to sweep out, Jian Wushuang had already dodged to the side. Whoosh! The brilliant Milky Way passed through the void where Jian Wushuang had been, but it did not touch the corner of Jian Wushuang's clothes. Jian Wushuang easily dodged the most powerful move of His Highness Qianchen. Awesome! Qianchen stared at Jian Wushuang with a gleam in his eyes. My move is not only powerful, but also locked onto him during the process. Logically, he shouldn't have been able to dodge my move. He had to face my move head-on, but he dodged it? It's the secret skill he just used. His Highness Qianchen was very knowledgeable, so he could see the reason at a glance. He just used a secret skill, causing the space-time where my saber light was to pause for a short time. This pause also caused me to lose my lock on him, so he was able to dodge it easily. What a strange secret skill. His Highness Qianchen praised in his heart. What he admired was the secret skill Jian Wushuang just used. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's face was also extremely solemn. As he had expected, Prince Qianchen had hidden his trump card. Just like that saber move, the power was really terrifying. If he did not have the heaven-designated skill, he would probably have to take out the mountain and river designed to block it. Whoosh! Prince Qianchen moved forward again, but he only took 2 steps before he stopped in front of Jian Wushuang. Heaven and Earth Palace, Qianchen. Prince Qianchen directly told Jian Wushuang his name and origin. Heaven and Earth Palace? Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat, but he also understood. He had long guessed that this black-robed young man had an extraordinary background and was likely from the 3 palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Now it seemed that this was the case. A peak false saint with the battle strength of a second-rank true saint. This is the genius of the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and it's only the lowest level of Heaven and Earth Palace. Jian Wushuang secretly sighed. He had met Long Yin and Shuiyu, who also claimed to be from the Palace of Heaven and Earth. However, he only knew about Long Yin and Shuiyu, but he did not know how strong they were. After all, they had never shown their true strength. Only Shuiyu showed some of his strength and easily killed a rank 1 true saint. But that was nothing. Now that he had seen Qianchen with his own eyes and witnessed his strength, Jian Wushuang knew how high the level of the genius of the Heaven and Earth Palace was. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Jian Wushuang said his name. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are very strong, really strong. With you, I can't kill the rest of your team. It seems that I can't get the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse. His Highness Qianchen sighed. Qianchen, You want the body of the dragon flame beast for the mission of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, right? Jian Wushuang looked at him. Yes. His Highness Qianshan nodded directly. As expected, Jian Wushuang was not surprised at all. He had just heard His Highness Qianshan mention the word mission, so he had guessed the origin of His Highness Qianshan. The mission I received this time is to come to the Dragon Flame world and snatch the Dragon Flame beast's corpse in your hands. There were a total of 12 teams in the Dragon Flame world that originally had the Dragon Flame beast's corpse, but during these 12 days, I've already found 8 teams and defeated all of them. The Dragon Flame beast's corpse in their hands naturally fell into my hands. Originally, you were the 9th team that I found, so the result should be the same as the other 8 teams. But I didn't expect there to be an expert like you in your team. It seems that I won't be able to complete the task this time, Prince Qianshan said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was stunned, but everyone in the Barbarian King team was shocked. They did not know until now that there were so many teams that had accepted the task of killing the Dragon Flame Beast. Moreover, since those teams could kill the Dragon Flame Beast and obtain its corpse, their battle strength would not be much weaker than their teams. But in the end, 8 teams had been defeated by this expert called Qianshan. They had no doubt that their squads would have followed in the footsteps of the 8 squads, if it were not for Jian Wushuang. Qianshan, did you just say 100%? Does that mean that even if you don't get the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse, you will only lose some of your mission quotas? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, although this mission is not very challenging for me. After all, I have to deal with 12 squads at once, so it is inevitable that I will fall behind. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance won't judge me as a failure just because I have 1 or 2 less Dragon Flame Beasts' corpses. They will only judge my mission completion quota. Now, I definitely won't get the Dragon Flame Beasts' corpses in your team, so I can only complete 90% of the mission quota. Of course, I will only get 90% of the mission reward in the end, Prince Qianshan said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. It's only 10% of the mission reward. It's nothing to me. To be able to fight with an expert like you is already a big harvest for me. Prince Qianshan had already put his saber back into its scabbard. He crossed his arms and looked at Jian Wushuang. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I'll remember you. If we have the chance to meet again, we'll fight again. Goodbye. After saying that, Qianshan turned around and left. Jian Wushuang and the Barbarian King team watched Qianshan leave quietly. No one dared to chase after him. Qianshan from the Heaven and Earth Palace? Interesting. Jian Wushuang smiled, but he was a little curious. He was curious about the 3 palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. After witnessing the strength of the 3 palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Jian Wushuang was naturally curious about the 3 palaces. However, despite his curiosity, Jian Wushuang still did not plan to join the 3 palaces. After all, he had too many concerns. Chapter 2982. Was he really a divine master? Outside the Dragon Flame world, in the Dark Temple, he has retreated. His Highness Qianshan has chosen to retreat. He has no choice. Heavenly Sword Marquis is no weaker than him. His Highness Qianshan has already used his most powerful move, but he hasn't been able to hurt the Heavenly Sword Marquis at all. With such an expert, how could His Highness Qianshan have the chance to kill the experts of that team and get the corpse of the Dragon Flame Beast? You're right. The 6 black-clothed men were talking leisurely. They all knew that Prince Qianshan had tried his best. It was not because he was not strong, but because Jian Wushuang was too strong. The appearance of Heavenly Sword Marquis was completely unexpected. It's normal that Prince Qianshan could not complete the 100% task quota. After that, we have to report this matter to the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and let them handle this matter in person, the man in the triangular helmet said to himself. In addition, Heavenly Sword Marquis, in the Dragon Flame world, the 9th team that His Highness Qianshan found ended in failure. However, he was not discouraged and continued to look for the 10th team. Obviously, there was no expert like Jian Wushuang in the other teams, so there was no room for him to fight against His Highness Qianshan. His team was directly defeated, so the dragon flame beast's corpse naturally fell into his hands. In a flash, a month had passed. In a remote plane in the dragon flame world, someone from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has sent me a message. The 1-month deadline has passed. Our mission has been completed, so we can leave now, the Barbarian King said with a pleasantly surprised smile on his face. Everyone in the Barbarian King team was also pleasantly surprised. After all, the reward for the second phase of the mission was 200 million sacred elixirs. Now that the mission was completed, the 200 million sacred elixirs would belong to their team. This was an astronomical figure for them, so they were naturally overjoyed. Of course, the reason why our Barbarian King team was able to complete the second phase of the mission is mainly because of the existence of the Heavenly Marquis brothers, the Barbarian King added. Yes, it's all thanks to the Heavenly Marquis brothers. The others also looked at Jian Wushuang with awe in their eyes. They knew very well that if it were not for Jian Wushuang, they would not have been able to complete the second stage of the mission. Even when Prince Qianchen came to kill them, many people in their team would have died, including the strongest one, their captain, the Barbarian King, would probably die on the spot. Everyone, I propose that half of the 200 million sacred elixirs be given to the Heavenly Marquis brother. How about it? The Barbarian King said. No problem. I agree. The second stage of the mission can only be completed by the Heavenly Marquis brother. It's only right that he gets half of the reward. Everyone in the Barbarian King team nodded in agreement. Heavenly Marquis brothers, what do you think? The Barbarian King looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, since everyone is so polite, I'll accept the 100 million sacred elixirs. Seeing this, the Barbarian King and the others also smiled. Let's go and hand in the mission. The 8 members of the Barbarian King team directly headed out of the Dragon Flame world with smiles on their faces. In the void outside the Dragon Flame world in the dark shrine, whoosh, a black-robed figure appeared out of thin air in the shrine. Welcome, Your Highness Qianchen. The triangular armored man and the 6 black-robed men under him had already bowed and waited. That black-robed figure was naturally His Highness Qianchen, who had just returned from the Dragon Flame world. All of you stand up. His Highness Qianchen waved his hand, and everyone immediately stood up. You all saw the process of this mission, right? Princess Qianchen looked at the triangular-shaped man in the helmet. We saw it. The triangular-shaped man immediately said, this mission, because of our negligence, there were some unforeseen circumstances, which caused Princess Qianchen to not be able to complete 100% of the mission quota. However, we have already reported the truth of what happened here. I believe that the lords of the 3 palaces will reasonably determine your mission quota based on the actual situation here. Yes, His Highness Qianchen nodded slightly. I'm not worried about the mission quota. The less. What I want to say is that Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed quite strong, and his methods of concealing his aura are truly brilliant. I've fought with him for so long, but I haven't been able to see his specific realm at all. Do you know what his realm is exactly? Is he a first or second rank true saint, or is he a peak false saint like me? His Highness Qianchen was indeed curious. He had always thought that Jian Wushuang must have been concealing his aura, and he also had his own speculation about Jian Wushuang's true realm. In his opinion, Jian Wushuang should be a true saint. Perhaps he was only a first-rank true saint, but it was unlikely that he was a second-rank true saint, because he could see that Jian Wushuang's divine power was far inferior to a second-rank true saint. However, it was also possible that Jian Wushuang was just a first-level false saint like him. If that was the case, then Jian Wushuang's talent was no less than his. However, in his opinion, there were very few geniuses like him who could enter the Heaven and Earth Palace of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. There were very few geniuses like him in the entire Divine Beginning world. It was very unlikely that a genius like him could appear anywhere in the Endless Territories. Therefore, he did not think that Jian Wushuang was a peak false saint. Hearing what Prince Qianchen said, the man in the triangular helmet and the 6 men in black behind him looked at each other with strange expressions. What? Say something. Is Heavenly Sword Marquis really a peak false saint? Prince Qianchen frowned slightly, He saw the changes in the expressions of the men in the triangular helmet. Your Highness Qianchen. The man in the triangular helmet hesitated for a moment before he finally spoke. According to the information we received from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Heavenly Sword Marquis should be just a divine master. What did you say? Qianchen immediately looked at the man in the triangular helmet. His eyes were filled with a strange light. Divine master? You said that Heavenly Sword Marquis is only a divine master? Hehe. An expert who can fight me to a standstill and leave me helpless is only a divine master? Are you playing with me? His Highness Qianchen's voice was cold. A trace of anger appeared in his eyes. I don't dare, I don't dare. The man in the triangular helmet shook his head repeatedly. Your Highness, according to the information we received from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, this Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed just a supreme being. He once participated in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's assessment as a supreme being. During that assessment, he once killed a peak false saint with his supreme being level. At that time, his combat strength had already reached the true saint level. Chapter 2983. Hyrivas, he killed a peak false saint in the assessment? Why didn't you say so earlier? You didn't mention him in the report you gave me. Prince Qianchen said in a low voice. Your Highness, we only found out after careful investigation. During the assessment, Heavenly Sword Marquis did kill a peak false saint in the Supreme Divinity realm. His combat strength was comparable to a normal true saint. At that time, Princess Long Yin and Princess Shuiyu, who also came from the Heaven and Earth Palace, saw it with their own eyes. The man in the triangular helmet said, Long Yin and Shuiyu, the two of them? Prince Qianchen's expression changed. He was also a genius from the Heaven and Earth Palace, so he naturally knew about Long Yin and Shuiyu. At that time, Prince Long Yin and Prince Shuiyu were also shocked by the talent of Heavenly Sword Marquis. They decided on the spot that Heavenly Sword Marquis could definitely enter the Primitive Palace, and even had a chance to enter the Primal Chaos Palace. Therefore, the two of them immediately went to invite Heavenly Sword Marquis, but he rejected them. Royal Highness Long Yin and Royal Highness Shuiyu had no choice but to report this matter to the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. For some unknown reason, the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance have yet to make any movements. However, they have concealed quite a bit of information about Heavenly Sword Marquis. We only found out about this matter because this mission concerns you, Royal Highness Qianchen, said the man in the triangular helmet. Is that so? His Highness Qianchen raised his eyebrows and asked, How long has it been since the last test? 80 years, the man in the triangular helmet said. Hearing this, His Highness Qianchen's pupils shrank. In other words, during these 80 years, Heavenly Sword Marquis still hasn't broken through to the immortal saint level, but his battle strength has soared again. Before, he only had the battle strength of a first-level true saint, but now he has the battle strength of a second-level true saint. Is it enough to fight with me? That's right, but it doesn't exclude the fact that he had hidden his strength 80 years ago, the triangular-shaped battle helmet man said. No matter what, Heavenly Sword Marquis is an out-and-out super genius. Long Yin and Shuiyu were right. If he really is just a divine master, then with the battle prowess he has displayed now, he can easily join the Primal Palace. It's not even a problem for him to join the Primal Chaos Palace. I just didn't think that my luck would be so good. In the entire beginning divine world, there are billions of geniuses in a single era. Only a dozen or so are qualified to join the Primal Chaos Palace. But this time, I actually met one? Prince Qianchen sighed inwardly. The Heaven-Earth Palace and the Primal Chaos Palace were both places where geniuses gathered. But the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. The Primal Chaos Palace's super genius was definitely more than 100 times stronger than him. And it was even more than that. Such a genius was rare in the entire beginning divine realm. He was lucky to have met one. Your Highness Qianchen, we have reported the matter of Heavenly Marquis Sword in detail. I believe that the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will know how to handle it properly, said the man in the triangular helmet. How else can we get out? Such a super genius is coveted by every major force in the beginning divine world. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is no exception. If I'm not wrong, those old fellows of the 3 palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance are already thinking of ways to rope in the Heavenly Sword Marquis, said His Highness Qian Chun with a strange smile. Forget it, I've already completed my mission. The rest of the matters have nothing to do with me. I'll let those old fellows handle it themselves. As for Heavenly Sword Marquis, although I admire his talent, the competition among the 3 palaces is already very intense. There's even a limited number of spots in the Chaos Palace. If he were to take another spot, the competition among us would be even greater. Therefore, it's best if he doesn't join us. After saying a few words, Prince Qianchen left. The vast beginning divine world was vast and boundless. And there were many places in the beginning divine world that were still in a state of chaos. At this moment, in a chaotic void, 3 ancient and powerful existences were gathered together. Any one of these 3 existences was enough to intimidate an entire region. Any one of them was enough to make the immortal saint kneel and tremble. This just came from the endless territory. Take a look. A 3-eyed man over 3 meters tall with bronze skin casually threw out a token. As soon as the token was thrown out, a huge mirror image immediately appeared. In the image, it was the fierce battle between Jian Wushuang and Prince Qian Chun in the Dragon Flame world. The 3 super existences looked at the scene in the mirror image with great interest. I know this little guy. His name is Qian Chun, and he comes from the Heaven and Earth Palace of our Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Although he's not the best among the many little guys in the Heaven and Earth Palace, he's still very outstanding. Moreover, he just broke through to the Immortal Saint not long ago. Logically speaking, he should have completed the experiential learning mission by now, a green-haired woman said. Her voice was soft and gentle, making people feel as refreshing as a breeze. He is indeed on a training mission. The content of this mission is rather simple. The 3-eyed man briefly recounted the contents of Princess Qian Chen's mission. Then he continued. Originally, this training mission didn't have much pressure on him. As long as he is careful not to let those who possess the Dragon Flame Beast's corpse escape, he will be able to complete the 100% mission. However, it is clear that his luck isn't that good. Haha, I can see that. An old man with white hair smiled. The 12 teams were originally made up of several peak false saints and 2 or 3 first-rank true saints. But now, he has encountered an extremely powerful little guy in this team. The old man had already seen the scene in which Jian Wushuang used the reincarnation sword formation and his own swordsmanship to fight head-on with Princess Qian Chen, and he faintly gained the upper hand. This little guy with the sword is comprehending both the reincarnation rule and the space-time rule at the same time, and he is using his own swordsmanship and sword formation to perfectly combine the 2 rules. Not bad, the green-haired woman said in surprise. You should pay attention to the aura that the little guy is emitting, the 3-eyed man said. This aura, Divine Master. The green-haired woman and the vicissitudes of Life Elder were both surprised. It can't be. He fought Qian Chen head-on and didn't lose at all. In the end, he's just a reverent god-level expert? The green-haired woman immediately looked at the 3-eyed man. Is this little guy's realm certain? He was certain before, but now he's a little uncertain. The 3-eyed man shook his head and began to explain. Previously, when this little guy participated in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's assessment, he displayed extraordinary talent. He killed a peak false saint with his Divine Master level cultivation. At that time, we thought that he should be a peak genius. But now, Chapter 2984. I will go there personally. Right now, this little guy is at the same level as Qian Chun when he's at the Supreme God realm. He has the battle strength of a second-level true saint, and he's not weak among the second-level true saints. He directly crossed 3 levels. And there's also the great realm of the Supreme God realm and the Immortal Saint. With such a terrifying ability to cross levels, even the top monsters of the Primal Chaos Palace can't compare to him, the 3-eyed man said in a deep voice. The green-haired woman and the vicissitudes of Life Elder nodded slightly. Indeed, the heaven-cleaving three palaces were full of geniuses and all kinds of monsters. For example, the peak geniuses of the Chaos Palace could only be described as terrifying. However, even the peak geniuses of the Chaos Palace could not cross 3 levels at once like Jian Wushuang, who could rival a second-level true saint. No one in the Chaos Palace could do that. It's precisely because he can't do it that I have to wonder if he has really cultivated a special breath-holding technique, and whether he has reached the realm of the immortal saint, the three-eyed man said solemnly. The green-haired woman and the vicissitudes of life elder looked at each other and smiled faintly. What they saw now was only a mirror image sent by someone else, not Jian Wushuang. They had not really felt the aura from Jian Wushuang, so they could not be sure whether Jian Wushuang was a divine master or not. In fact, when this little guy completed the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's assessment, the 2 disciples of the Heaven and Earth Palace, who were present at the time, had already sent an invitation to him. But he rejected it. Although the talent he displayed at that time was extraordinary, at most, he could only join the primitive palace. According to the rules of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, since he had already been invited once unless the other party was really too dazzling, he wouldn't invite him a second time. Therefore, we haven't made any moves over the years, but now, if this little guy had already broken through to the immortal saint realm, it would be fine. But if he really is just a divine master, then such a monster is rare in the entire history of the beginning divine realm, not to mention in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. He is definitely qualified for the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to send out a second, or even a third invitation, the three-eyed man said solemnly. The green-haired woman and the weathered elder nodded in unison. Indeed, if he really was just a divine master, then such a supreme monster was enough for the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to spend a great price to rope him in and nurture him. How about this? Since no one can determine this little fellow's true realm, then this old man will personally make a trip. The weathered elder suddenly stood up. You will personally make a trip? The three-eyed man and the green-haired woman looked over in astonishment. Hee, this little fellow's comprehension of the laws of space-time isn't weak, and he is also skilled in the Tao of the sword. Unfortunately, the level of the absolute art he created is too weak. I can just give him some pointers. This way, if he really is a super genius, he will definitely feel grateful under this old man's guidance. When that time comes, this old man will invite him again, and the chances of him agreeing to it will be much higher. The old man laughed. The three-eyed man and the green-haired woman nodded slightly. If that's the case, then he'll have to trouble you to make a trip, the three-eyed man said. It's no trouble. This old man hasn't been to the endless territories for a long time. He'll just take this trip as a way to relax. The weathered elder smiled, and his figure flashed as he disappeared from the spot. In one of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's nests, the 8 members of the Barbarian King team were already handing over their tasks. After the handover, they got 220 million sacred elixirs as they wished. Haha, more than 200 million sacred elixirs. I've never seen so many sacred elixirs in my life. The immortal saint named Achao said in surprise. Shoo, keep your voice down. The barbarian king shouted. Achao stuck out his tongue. Brother Heavenly Marquis. The barbarian king walked directly toward Jian Wushuang. According to what I said before, of the 220 million sacred elixirs, 100 million are given to you directly after completing the second stage. As for the 20 million sacred elixirs in the first stage, it will be counted as 4 million sacred elixirs, according to your previous contribution. What do you think? The barbarian king was seeking Jian Wushuang's opinion. If Jian Wushuang asked for more sacred elixirs, he would agree directly. Forget about the 4 million sacred elixirs. I only want the 100 million, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. That's good. The barbarian king naturally smiled. Everyone immediately began to distribute. Jian Wushuang received 100 million sacred elixirs, and the remaining 120 million sacred elixirs were divided equally among the barbarian king and the other 7 people. In the end, each of them received a significant amount of sacred elixirs. Everyone was quite happy. Brother Heavenly Marquis, this task has been completed and next, The barbarian king looked at Jian Wushuang again. Next, I want to explore on my own, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Hearing this, the barbarian king and the others looked at each other. Although they felt a little regretful, they could understand. Jian Wushuang's strength was obvious. He could easily complete a 3-star Earth-level task alone, so there was no need for him to stay with this team. To put it bluntly, this team was nothing but a burden to Jian Wushuang. In that case, we'll take our leave again, the barbarian king said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Brother Heavenly Marquis, let's meet again in the future, Shuedong King said. Okay. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and then separated from the barbarian king team. When they separated, Jian Wushuang could still vaguely hear the barbarian king team members talking to Shuedong King. Shuedong King, it's all thanks to you introducing such a powerful friend to our team. Otherwise, our team wouldn't have been able to escape unscathed and get so much reward. Yes, your good friend is really amazing. It's funny that we thought your friend was just a divine master and would become a burden to us. But now it seems that we are his burden. Hearing the voices behind him, Jian Wushuang could only smile helplessly. And then, the Earth-level 3-star mission usually only faces some first-rank true saints. This mission is just special, and the reward is so great that it is more difficult. But I can still complete it. In other words, with my strength, it shouldn't be difficult to complete an ordinary Earth-level 3-star mission, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He had completed a special 3-star Earth-level task with the Barbarian King team, so Jian Wushuang had a basic understanding of this level of task. Next, he naturally had to take 3 3-star Earth-level tasks alone. After completing 3 3-star Earth-level tasks, he could become a Heaven-level member, and his authority would be even greater. Chapter 2985. Different time and space. However, before I continue to accept the 3-star Earth-level task, I got 100 million sacred elixirs. I can go to Lord Tianshou and see if I can exchange them for something good. Jian Wushuang smiled and immediately went to the treasure pavilion. Sir Tianshou, I need some sword skill manuals that can be used to observe and comprehend, and also involve the space-time rules, Jian Wushuang said directly. He knew very well what he lacked now. It was the absolute art that he created. The sword skill, the first move of the storm, was too weak. He really needed to create a stronger absolute art now. This absolute art had to be able to perfectly display his comprehension of the space-time rules. There are too many sword skills related to the space-time rules in my treasure pavilion. I'll give you a list first. Take a look for yourself. Lord Tianshou took out a list and handed it to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang glanced at it casually, but he could not help staring at it. The list given by Lord Tianshou was indeed full of various sword skills related to the power of the space-time rules. The key point was that there were so many swordsmanship manuals on the list that there must be at least tens of millions of them. Is it all here? Jian Wushuang could not help looking at Lord Tianshou. No, this is only a part of it. After you have selected this list, if you are not satisfied, I will give you a second list, Lord Tianshou said straightforwardly. Jian Wushuang was speechless. Then he said directly, Lord Tianshou, the sword skill manuals I want are of a higher level, preferably created by a true saint expert. No problem. Lord Tianshou was silent for a moment. Then he took out another list and gave it to Jian Wushuang. There were fewer sword skill manuals on this list, but there were still tens of thousands of them. Jian Wushuang selected a few sword skill manuals and browsed through them for a while, but he secretly shook his head. It was true that these sword skills involved the rules of space-time, but the power of the rules of space-time was not very profound. It was not too difficult for Jian Wushuang, so it was naturally less helpful. Even though the sword skill manuals were of a higher level, Jian Wushuang was still somewhat dissatisfied. Although these sword skill manuals are extraordinary, I'm afraid there are only a few of them that can enlighten me and help me a lot. Most importantly, I don't know which direction I should go. Jian Wushuang frowned. At first, he wanted to ask Lord Tianshou to recommend to him which sword skill he should choose, but he was unfortunately rejected by Lord Tianshou. According to Lord Tianshou, he could judge the sword art that would help him the most according to Jian Wushuang's current situation. However, he would not tell Jian Wushuang that he would have to pay a price, at least 100 million sacred elixirs. Jian Wushuang was helpless about this. Forget it. It won't be long before I become a heaven-grade member of the Heaven-Slaying Alliance. By then, heaven-grade members will have more authority, and the value of the treasures they can exchange for will be higher. When that time comes, I will carefully come here and choose a sword art manual that is suitable for me to comprehend, Jian Wushuang muttered. He had already made up his mind. After leaving the treasure pavilion, Jian Wushuang returned to the counter of the secret lair. Accept the mission, Jian Wushuang said directly and took out his identity token at the same time. In front of the counter was a demonic youth with long purple hair. The demonic youth glanced at Jian Wushuang with a faint silver luster in his eyes, and did not pay much attention to it. However, when he took the identity token from Jian Wushuang, his expression suddenly changed. Heavenly Sword Marquis? You are Heavenly Sword Marquis? The devilish purple-haired young man stared at Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's me. What's the matter? Jian Wushuang asked with a frown. Oh, it's like this. The devilish purple-haired young man immediately reacted. Mr. Heavenly Sword Marquis, not long ago, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance sent an order saying that a lord from the headquarters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has personally rushed to the Endless Territory to see you. Therefore, he asked us to inform you when we see you. If you have nothing urgent, please wait here for a moment. I'll immediately send a message to the higher-ups. The Lord will come to see you soon. A big shot from the headquarters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance wants to see me? Jian Wushuang was startled, and immediately became alert. However, he immediately relaxed. He could tell that the big shot from the headquarters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was not here to find trouble with him. After all, if the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance wanted to harm him, they would not have told him to wait here in advance. Now the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance probably had only one purpose. Jian Wushuang had vaguely guessed the purpose of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. How long will it take for the big shot to arrive? Jian Wushuang asked. It shouldn't take 3 days, the purple-haired demonic youth said. The headquarters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was indeed very far from the Endless Territory, but there were many space passages in between. It did not take too long to travel from the headquarters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to the Endless Territory. 3 days was enough. Well, I'll wait here for 3 days, Jian Wushuang agreed. 3 days passed quickly. Mr. Heavenly Marquis Jian, the Lord has arrived. Please follow me. The purple-haired demonic youth appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and led him to the inner hall of the nest. There was almost no light in the darkroom. Under the guidance of the purple-haired demonic youth, Jian Wushuang came to the darkroom. As soon as he arrived, Jian Wushuang saw an old figure with his back facing him. The old figure was not tall, and he was very thin. He had his hands behind his back and did not emit any aura. However, the moment Jian Wushuang saw the old figure, he felt as if he saw a complete space-time. Yes, a space-time that was completely independent and incompatible with the surrounding world. This space-time was so strange that Jian Wushuang was stunned at the first moment. He did not expect that there could be two space-time in the world at the same time. One was the space-time under the natural circulation of the heavenly Tao. What he saw now was clearly a new space-time formed by the old figure with great means. In this new space-time, except for himself, no one else's space-time power would have any effect. The move that Jian Wushuang was good at, the heaven-designated skill, caused the space-time to be temporarily frozen. However, no matter how powerful his move was, even if it was 10 or 100 times stronger, it would not affect the old figure at all, because the old figure was completely in a new time and space. Chapter 2986. Embryonic Form of Swordsmanship. My lord, the Heavenly Sword Marquis has arrived. The violet-haired devilish youth stared at the elderly figure, his eyes flashing with reverence. You may leave. The elderly figure waved his hand, and the violet-haired devilish youth immediately turned around and left. After his death, the elderly figure slowly turned around revealing an elderly face. He had white hair and looked like he had entered his twilight years. However, his vitality was abnormally strong. His deep eyes were like black explosions full of vigor. His aura was extremely unique, as if he had been through endless wind and rain. He had experienced vicissitudes of life. At this moment, the vicissitudes of life elder were staring at Jian Wushuang with interest. As expected, he is only a divine master. The vicissitude elder felt a trace of joy in his heart. He had just come, so he was not too sure about Jian Wushuang's talent and strength. Because they had not seen Jian Wushuang in person before, they could not determine whether Jian Wushuang was really just a divine master. But now that he had seen it with his own eyes, he could sense that Jian Wushuang was indeed just a divine master. If an existence like him could not see any flaws, then Jian Wushuang must be just a divine master. I am Mo Shan from the Heaven-Cleaving Three Palaces. The weathered elder said. Heavenly Sword Marquis, greetings, sir. Jian Wushuang was extremely respectful. When he saw the weathered elder Mo Shan, he could already tell that the latter was a genuine rule master. Rule masters were the top existences in the entire divine beginning world. They were all super experts who could intimidate everyone. How could such a super expert come to the endless territory in person? Little guy, look at this first. Mo Shan waved his hand casually, and a huge mirror image immediately appeared around him. In the mirror image, Jian Wushuang and Prince Qianchun were fighting head-on. Jian Wushuang was very familiar with this scene and recognized it at a glance. What Jian Wushuang did not know was why Mo Shan took out the mirror image token. Little guy, you have a good understanding of the reincarnation rule and have obtained a sword formation that is very suitable for you to use. You have perfectly displayed your understanding of the reincarnation rule. But in terms of the space-time rule, you have a lot of room for improvement, Mo Shan explained. Let's not talk about the space-time rules. Just in terms of swordsmanship, if I'm not wrong, it shouldn't be too long for your comprehension of the sword principle to reach the second stage, the boundless sword tree. It's not too long, Jian Wushuang admitted. That's right. His comprehension of the sword principle is not very high, but the power of your sword tree is very strong. It's not surprising that your foundation is too strong. Although you have just broken through, the boundless sword skill in your body is at least 20,000 feet high. Only such a powerful boundless sword tree can make your swordsmanship so strong, Mo Shan said with a smile. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. Mo Shan seemed to have seen through him, with just a mirror image of his fierce battle with Prince Qianchun. His comprehension of the sword principle was indeed not very high. As for why his swordsmanship was so powerful, that was his innate advantage. His boundless swordsmanship was 3,300 feet tall, which was much more powerful than many top true saints. Your comprehension of laws and sword Tao has already surpassed divine masters, and some have even reached the true saint level. Logically speaking, you should already have the conditions to break through to become an immortal saint. However, it is precisely because your talent is too high and your potential is too great that you still have some room for improvement. If I'm not wrong, the space for improvement lies in the absolute art you created. You must create a stronger absolute art so that your strength can be saturated. Only then can you find an opportunity to make a breakthrough, Mo Shan added. It's like this. Jian Wushuang nodded. I'm also thinking of creating a stronger sword art. Since you want to create swordsmanship, I can give you a suggestion, Mo Shan said. Jian Wushuang listened carefully. You can try to tear and cut your swordsmanship, Mo Shan said. In the picture, when you were fighting with the little guy, the sword essence that you burst out was mainly sharp. Even the natal magic weapon in your hand is most terrifying, because of its sharpness. The sword essence and magic weapon are both the same. Naturally, the swordsmanship that you created should be mainly about tearing and cutting. Or if you have the time and energy, you can even create a complete set of swordsmanship. Create a complete set of swordsmanship? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Yes. Mo Shan smiled and said, swordsmanship can be used to attack, defend, cut, and explode. It can be involved in all aspects. It's only because of the relationship between your sword essence and the use of magic weapons that I mind you taking the path of tearing and cutting. But in fact, if you have the time and energy and good perception, you can try to create a complete set of swordsmanship that involves all aspects. Once such swordsmanship has an outline, it can be improved and perfected as one's comprehension of the rules and swordsmanship improves. The power of this swordsmanship will naturally become stronger and stronger. In the future, you don't need to spend so much time creating new swordsmanship. Not only can it save time, but it can also make your swordsmanship more complete. Upon hearing Emoshan's words, Jian Wushuang's expression became solemn. Creating a complete sword art and improving it in the future? It was not that Jian Wushuang had not thought of this method. However, a complete sword art must involve all aspects and have a complete embryonic form. This embryonic form was the most important. Just like how a person built a house, how high and how strong the building was depended on the foundation. If the foundation was not firm, the house could easily collapse. The same was true for swordsmanship. If Jian Wushuang really wanted to complete the step mentioned by Emoshan, it would not be easy. After all, his current swordsmanship involved the rules and sword principles, which were unfathomable. Under such circumstances, it was not difficult for him to just create an embryonic form. The key was that this embryonic form had a lot of room for growth. It would be much more difficult for him to keep improving. Previously, Jian Wushuang did not have the confidence to create such an embryonic form of swordsmanship. But now, despite Emoshan's suggestion, he still did not have the confidence. Little guy, your talent is very high. This embryonic form of sword principle should not be difficult for you. At most, it will only take a little time. But if you continue to pursue a higher level of swordsmanship, it will be easy for you to create more powerful swordsmanship now. But it will be difficult in the future, Emoshan said. Chapter 2987. Gold-splitting secret manual. Jian Wushuang's expression changed again. Indeed, he felt that it was getting harder and harder to create a new sword skill. For example, the space-time sword skill had a huge threshold from the 7th movement. Every time he wanted to create a new sword skill, it was extremely difficult. After the 9th move, the first move, the storm, it was even more difficult to create the 10th move. Sir Emoshan, to tell you the truth, I do have the idea to create the embryonic form of swordsmanship, but I have never received the guidance of an expert in the sword principle of a mission, and there is nothing I can do indirectly. It's too difficult to create the embryonic form of swordsmanship, Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. Learn from it. Emoshan smiled. It's easy to learn from it. There are all kinds of secret manuals on sword principle in the treasure pavilion of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Many of them can be used as a reference for you. I know a secret manual that will be of great help to you. Which secret manual? Jian Wushuang asked. This secret manual is called the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual. It was created many years ago by an expert named Gold Splitting. Emoshan smiled. Gold splitting? Jian Wushuang's expression did not change. Obviously, he had never heard of it. Gold splitting, the gold-splitting master. When he was alive, he was very famous in the divine beginning world. Not only was he a rule master, but he was also one of the top rule masters, second only to the legendary Saint Realm Master, Emoshan explained. And this gold-splitting master was a rule master who had completely comprehended the laws of time and space. In addition, his forte was also sword Dao. The void sword technique he created was one of the top sword techniques in the divine beginning realm. Although it still focused on cutting and tearing, this sword technique also involved many aspects. The gold-splitting secret manual was the precious legacy left behind by the gold-splitting master. During this period, not only did it contain his own void sword technique, but it also included his understanding of the laws of time and space, as well as sword techniques. He even dissected the laws of time and space, and sword Dao in great detail, and recorded them in the gold-splitting secret manual. For example, he dissected the first stage of the space-time rule, the space-time illusion body, and the second stage, the space-time blade, into a total of 1,000 copies. Each copy represented a space-time blade, which was extremely detailed. It was the same with the sword principle. It even included how to combine the space-time rule and sword principle perfectly. It was explained in detail in the gold-splitting secret manual. Upon hearing Imo Shan's words, Jian Wushuang's eyes became fervent. Previously, when he was in the treasure pavilion, he had no idea what to look for, so he had no idea where to start. But now, after hearing Imo Shan's gold-splitting secret manual, the space-time rule was perfectly combined with the sword principle, and he even dissected it perfectly, including the void swordsmanship created by the gold-splitting master. Just by listening to this secret manual, Jian Wushuang knew that it was very useful to him. Whether it was comprehending the space-time rule, comprehending the sword principle, or even creating the embryonic form of the swordsmanship, it could be of great use. Master Imo Shan, the gold-splitting secret manual is so amazing. Its value must be very shocking, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course the complete gold-splitting secret manual is precious, but as far as I know, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has long divided the gold-splitting secret manual into 4 volumes, so that the experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance can have more opportunities to exchange for treasures. If it's a single volume, its value should not be much higher. As for how much it is worth, you have to ask Master Tianshou, Imo Shan said with a smile. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, but in his heart, he also noticed how Imo Shan addressed Sir Tianshua. Imo Shan as a rule master, also called Sir Tianshua respectfully. Obviously, Sir Tianshuo's status in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was much higher than that of an ordinary rule master. In fact, it's very easy to learn from him. The most important thing is still guidance. Imo Shan suddenly became serious. Having an expert by your side to guide you and blindly exploring and cultivating alone are 2 completely different things. Jian Wushuang understood. He did not deny this point. With an expert's personal guidance, people could avoid many detours and unnecessary steps. They could spend all their time changing places, so they would naturally grow faster. Little guy, I have already introduced that I come from the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving. The 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving are full of geniuses, and there are countless experts. Any genius disciple who joins the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving will receive the greatest amount of training, and will naturally receive the best guidance. Do you want to go to the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving with me? Imo Shan looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was a little excited, but his pupils suddenly shrank, and he suddenly woke up. This Imo Shan. On the surface, Jian Wushuang still looked the same, but he was secretly surprised. He had guessed that this important figure from the headquarters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance came to him, probably because he valued his talent and wanted to invite him to join the 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving. He had been keeping an eye out for him. However, when he saw Imo Shan, the latter did not mention this matter at all. Instead, he was very friendly and did not put on any airs as he gave him some pointers and suggestions. These pointers and suggestions were indeed helpful to him. In particular, Imo Shan told him about the gold-splitting secret manual, which made him very moved. It made him very grateful to Imo Shan. However, Imo Shan changed the topic and asked him to join the 3 Heavens-Cleaving palaces in a different way. He was so tempted that he almost agreed. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang said solemnly, Master Imo Shan, I'm sorry. I don't plan to join the 3 Heaven-Cleaving palaces for the time being. Oh. Imo Shan narrowed his eyes and looked surprised. Little guy, I know that 2 geniuses of the Heaven and Earth Palace have invited you, but they are only disciples of the Heaven and Earth Palace. They don't know much about the 3 palaces. Moreover, with your talent, it's possible for you to enter the strongest Chaos Palace. The resources that the disciples of the Chaos Palace have are far beyond those of the Heaven and Earth Palace and the Primitive Palace. The 2 little guys don't know about it, so they can't explain it to you. But I can tell you one by one. Imo Shan was ready to tell Jian Wushuang some of the resources that the disciples of the Chaos Palace had. But before he could start, Jian Wushuang shook his head and refused. I'm sorry, Master Imo Shan. I really don't want to join the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces. Imo Shan frowned and did not continue. He took a deep look at Jian Wushuang. Little guy, you have to think carefully. According to the rules of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, as long as you were rejected once, you won't be invited again. I came here personally because of your amazing talent. If you refuse me, then in the future. Chapter 2988. What a pity! What a pity! Although Emo-shan did not finish his sentence, his meaning was clear. Under normal circumstances, the Heaven-Cleaving Union would only invite the same genius once. Only those super geniuses who were very, very talented would have the opportunity to invite him a second time. For example, Jian Wushuang, a divine master, had the battle strength of a second-rank true saint. It was incredible. He was the kind of genius who could be invited a second time. However, if Jian Wushuang refused the second time, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance would never invite him a third time. In the history of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, there had never been a genius who had invited the same genius 3 times. Hearing Emo-shan's words, Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart. It was not that he was not interested in the 3 palaces. He also knew that entering the 3 palaces to cultivate was much faster than cultivating alone. There would be more room for growth and more achievements in the future. However, he had too many concerns, so he did not dare to appear in the eyes of the top experts of the major forces. Master Emo-shan, I'm sorry. Jian Wushuang said one last word, bowed respectfully, and then turned to leave. Emo-shan looked at Jian Wushuang's back, still frowning, but he did not ask him to stay. Until Jian Wushuang left, Emo-shan began to ponder. I have already used a special method to guide him, and it seems that he is obviously interested in the Chaos Palace. But in the end he still refused. Emo-shan's expression was quite strange. He had been watching Jian Wushuang's reaction. When he saw that Jian Wushuang was tempted by his words, he thought it was going to be a success. He did not expect Jian Wushuang to reject him at the last moment. And so completely, he did not even have time to finish talking about the rights and benefits of some disciples of the Chaos Palace. Obviously, there was no room for negotiation. He was obviously tempted, but he refused to join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Could it be that this little guy has a grudge against a big figure of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and has many concerns? Emo-shan muttered. No matter what, Jian Wushuang was only a divine master, and he was just a little guy to the huge Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Such a little guy would never have a deep grudge with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Even if there was a grudge, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance would probably not continue to blame him because of his high talent. Under such circumstances, Jian Wushuang still had so many misgivings. In his opinion, there was only one possibility, which was that Jian Wushuang had a deep personal enmity with an expert of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. The second invitation was rejected, so the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will definitely not invite him a third time. It seems that this super genius is destined to be unable to become a disciple of the Heaven-Cleaving 3 palaces. What a pity, what a pity! Emo-shan secretly praised him, and then left. In the treasure pavilion, the golden light shadow Lord Tianshou gathered in front of Jian Wushuang. Lord Tianshou, I want to ask you to find the gold-splitting secret manual, Jian Wushuang said directly. Gold-splitting secret manual? Lord Tianshou's expression changed. It was left by an extremely powerful rule master, the gold-splitting master. It's a secret manual that combines the space-time rule and sword principle. By the way, it also contains the void swordsmanship created by the gold-splitting master, Jian Wushuang said immediately. I know. Lord Tianshou nodded slightly. You're quite capable. The gold-splitting secret manual is not only extraordinary, but it's also the most suitable for you. Who taught you? Well, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly but did not answer. Lord Tianshou shrugged. It's useless to tell you. There is indeed a gold-splitting secret manual in the treasure pavilion, and all 4 volumes are available. However, even the first level of the 4 volumes of the gold-splitting secret manual requires the permission of a heaven-level member to exchange for it. What? Jian Wushuang was stunned. The first volume required the permission of a heaven-level member? Was the level of the gold-splitting secret manual so high? With my current strength, completing 3 Earth-level 3-star missions should be nothing. It won't take long for me to become a heaven-level member, Jian Wushuang murmured. Then he asked, Sir Tianshua, how many sacred elixirs do you need to exchange for the first volume of the gold-splitting secret manual? Not much, 800 million. Sir Tianshua said directly. Jian Wushuang could not help being stunned. 800 million sacred elixirs? Just one volume? This is too expensive. Jian Wushuang could not help but click his tongue. He thought that he had just completed the special 3-star Earth-level mission and obtained 100 million sacred elixirs, which was enough. If he really could not, he still had the Destruction Beast God statue. If he exchanged for the Destruction Beast God statue from Sir Tianshou, he could also exchange for 500 million sacred elixirs, which added up to 600 million. However, he did not expect that with 600 million sacred elixirs in hand, he could not exchange for the first volume of the gold-splitting secret manual. It seems that I have to find a way to get some sacred elixirs, Jian Wushuang murmured. For now, if he wanted to get enough sacred elixirs as soon as possible, he had to find a way to complete the task. Jian Wushuang came to the Hall of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and began to read the 3-star Earth-level tasks. The endless territory was vast and had endless territories. There were countless secret nests of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. In such a vast territory, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance naturally issued many 3-star Earth-level tasks. Jian Wushuang began to read carefully. This mission is quite difficult. With my strength alone, I can barely complete it. But the final reward is only 20 million sacred elixirs. It's too little. Although the reward is very high, with 50 million sacred elixirs, the place to go is one of the truly forbidden places. Even a rank 2 or 3 true saints could die, or be lost forever. I'm not afraid of death. It's not easy to kill me, but it's too difficult to be lost forever. Forget it. This mission is too risky. It's not suitable. Jian Wushuang read carefully, and finally decided on 3 missions. These 3 missions were all 3-star Earth-level missions, which were quite difficult, especially the last one. The first and second missions were all rewarded with 40 million sacred elixirs. As for the third mission, the reward was 100 million sacred elixirs, which added up to 180 million sacred elixirs. If I can complete all 3 missions, with the sacred elixirs I have, and sell the Destruction Beast God statue, I can barely make up 800 million sacred elixirs. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. Soon, he went to accept the task. Chapter 2989. Godless Sea Area. The sky was dark. Below was a vast sea area. It was not only huge, but also unusually quiet. Whoosh! A figure appeared around the sea area and looked ahead. Is this the Godless Sea Area? Jian Wushuang muttered. The Godless Sea Area was also in the endless territory, but it was a relatively prosperous territory. There were many experts in this territory. It was said that there were many bandits hidden in the Godless Sea Area during the period. These bandits had very high levels of strength, including many immortal saints. It's been a year, Jian Wushuang murmured. I spent a year to complete the 2 3-star Earth-level missions. Now the Godless Sea Area is the last 3-star Earth-level mission. I hope everything will go smoothly. He had taken 3 3-star Earth-level missions in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Although the first 2 missions had caused him some trouble along the way, he had only spent a little more time and effort. He still completed the 2 missions. The 2 missions added up to 80 million sacred elixirs, and now they were in his hands. Now he was doing the last task he had accepted. It was the most difficult and highest paid task, with 100 million sacred elixirs. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang quickly flew into the depths of the sea. In the center of the Godless Sea, there was an uninhabited island. The island looked very peaceful, but in fact, it was just because someone had set up a magic array on the island. There was a team hidden on the island. There were more than 10 people in this team, and all of them were experts. There were 8 immortal saints alone, so of course they were only false saints. The team was led by 2 people. One was a bald old man in a white robe, and the other was a slightly chubby youth. Uncle Lei, we've been hiding here for more than a year. How much longer do we have to hide? The slightly chubby youth asked in a deep voice. No matter how long we wait, we have to wait. The white-robed bald elder, Uncle Lei, spoke. The Godless Sea area is an incomparably vast sea region. There are no spatial passageways here. If we want to leave, we have to pass through the center of the Godless Sea area. However, it's not like you don't know that the 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area are frantically searching for our tracks. Once our tracks are discovered by them, the experts of the 4 overlords will directly charge over. There's no way for us to stop them. But isn't hiding here a solution? The chubby youth said. Although the Godless Sea is huge and has many islands, the 4 overlords have many experts under their command. They will spread out and search the islands carefully. Sooner or later, they will find our island. 2 people have been to this island before, but they are only divine masters. They were bewitched by the illusory formation you set up, Uncle Lei. They couldn't see the reason. But if the next one comes as an immortal saint, Uncle Lei, I'm afraid your illusory formation won't be of much use, right? Uncle Lei's expression could not help but darken. Indeed, the illusory formation he set up on this island could bewitch ordinary divine masters. But it would be too difficult to bewitch an immortal saint. Once an immortal saint came to this island, he could definitely easily find them. As long as their whereabouts were exposed, it would be over. Don't worry. Master knows your situation here, so he made the arrangements long ago. He even paid a huge price to invite the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. We've been waiting here for a year. If nothing unexpected happens, the experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance should be arriving soon. Once the experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance arrive, we can leave this Godless Sea area. Uncle Lei said. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The chubby young man narrowed his eyes, and there was a flash of light in the depths of his eyes. Right at this moment, whoosh, a figure rushed over from afar and appeared in the void above the island in an instant. Someone's coming. Be careful, hide your aura well. Judging from the aura that this person is emitting, he's only at the reverent god level. He shouldn't be able to see through the illusory formation Lord Lei set up. The experts in this group were discussing. Although they could not see the exact appearance of the figure above, they could feel the aura of the other party. They were not worried about a mere divine master. However, suddenly, the figure that had stopped in the void above the island suddenly accelerated and rushed down. What? He actually rushed in. Could it be that he saw through Lord Lei's illusory formation? The experts of this group were all shocked. Uncle Lei immediately activated the illusory formation, wanting to stop the other party. But in the end, the figure that rushed downwards was not affected by the illusory formation at all. Instead, it continued downwards and in an instant, it passed through the illusory formation and appeared in front of the group. The experts in the team all took out their magic weapons and planned to attack. Stop, don't be rash. Uncle Lei shouted in a low voice and blocked the surrounding people. Then Uncle Lei glanced at Jian Wushuang seriously. After a long while he finally said, Are you from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Sure enough. Uncle Lei was delighted. He had long known that the members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance were dressed like Jian Wushuang, who was wearing a gray robe and a gray mask. It was obviously the standard equipment for the members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. You must be here on a mission from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, right? Uncle Lei asked again. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded again and looked around. The mission I received was to protect a young master named Qin Dong and leave the Godless Sea alive. Which one of you is Qin Dong? I am. The slightly plump young man immediately stood up. Is that you? Jian Wushuang glanced at Qin Dong and said, From today on, you follow me and I will take you out of the Godless Sea area alive. As soon as Jian Wushuang finished his words, the experts in the surrounding teams all had strange expressions on their faces. Little brother. Uncle Lei also looked over. May I know your name? Heavenly Sword Marquis, Jian Wushuang said. My little friend Heavenly Sword Marquis, where are your teammates now? Uncle Lei asked. Teammates? No teammates. Jian Wushuang shook his head directly. No teammates. Are they teammates? Uncle Lei asked again. No. I took this mission alone, so naturally, I am responsible for it. Jian Wushuang said directly. What? Uncle Lei and the experts around the team were shocked. Chapter 2990. Bloodblade Island, sir. Are you joking? Can you complete this mission alone? Uncle Lei's expression turned cold. Do you know where you are right now? This is the Godless Sea area. There are as many experts here as the clouds. There are even some immortal saints. I, young Master Jia, am being pursued by the 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area. There are more than 10 immortal saints in each of the 4 overlords, and their leaders are said to be at the peak of rank 1 true saint. Uncle Lei was interrupted by Jian Wushuang with a wave of his hand before he could finish his words. I know what you are talking about. The mission information that I received has a detailed introduction. I know more about the strength of the 4 overlords than you do. However, since I have received the mission information and know that the enemy's strength is still daring enough to accept this mission, I naturally have the confidence to deal with it. You don't have to worry about that. Jian Wushuang's voice was extremely cold. His words also aroused the disgust of many experts in this team. One had to know that this team had many immortal saints. Their young master had so many immortal saints escorting him. But in the end, he could only hide on this small island and did not dare to show his face at all. And now, a divine master had come to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. He actually dared to say that he had the confidence to deal with it. In the eyes of most of them, this was a joke. Uncle Lei, what should we do? Young Master Qin Dong immediately looked at Uncle Lei. Uncle Lei's face was gloomy. He stared at Jian Wushuang, trying to see the change in his expression. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang had been wearing a mask all this time. The only thing that was exposed was his eyes, which were unusually cold. He could not figure out why. This time, the master asked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to issue a unique mission. That means that if anyone in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance accepts this mission, no one else will accept it during the mission period. However, if the other party wants to accept this mission, he must have the strength to complete the mission. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will also test the difficulty of the mission. And now, the Heavenly Sword Marquis has passed the examination of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and received this mission. That means that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance recognizes his strength and believes that he has the ability to complete this mission. Uncle Lei said in a low voice. Ability? No matter how powerful he is only a deity? Qin Dong could not help but ask. There's no other way. Now that the Heavenly Sword Marquis has arrived, we can't let him go back. Even if we go back, we won't have time to wait for the other experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to arrive. Therefore, we can only gamble. Uncle Lei said. Gamble? Qin Dong was stunned. We bet that Heavenly Sword Marquis is really confident in dealing with the 4 overlords as he said. At the same time, we bet that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will not violate their principles. Whoever is sent to complete this mission must have the ability to do so, Uncle Lei said. So we have to put our lives in the hands of the Divine Master. Qin Dong's face was a little ugly. There's no other way. Uncle Lei sighed, and then looked at Jian Wushuang. May I ask how you want to take my young master away? Just follow me, Jian Wushuang said indifferently, but his body had already floated away. Qin Dong and Uncle Lei looked at each other in dismay. They did not hesitate to follow him, and the rest of the team naturally followed. Under Jian Wushuang's lead, the group left the island and headed directly to the edge of the Godless Sea area. On the way, the experts in the group looked a little unhappy. This guy wants us to leave the Godless Sea area so openly. Does he think that the 4 overlord spies are just for show? That's right. Without any disguise, the experts under the 4 overlords can recognize us as soon as they see us. Then they will attack us directly. How can he resist them then? It seems that this time we are doomed. These people were more or less dispirited. And just as they had expected, their group of people did not need any disguise to travel in the void of the Godless Sea area. They were easily discovered by one of the 4 overlords, the people of Bloodblade Island. In the Grand Palace, Island Master, we found the location of young Master Qin Dong, a thin old man reported. Found him? The Island Master of the Bloodblade Island was a young man with blood-red hair and a blood-red robe. His eyes were bewitching with red light. When he heard the report from the thin old man, the red light in his eyes was abnormally cold. Where did you find them? The island master of the Blood Blade Island asked immediately. They're in the void above the Godless Sea area. I don't know what's going on. Qin Dong and his guards are flying there without any disguise. It seems like they want to leave the Godless Sea area directly, said the skinny old man. Without any disguise? The island master of the Blood Blade Island raised his eyebrows. Qin Dong should have known that the 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area have their eyes on them. He has been trying to find their location for a whole year. Now they have shown up on their own accord. And they are so unscrupulous? Yes, Qin Dong's people were too unscrupulous. It was because they were unscrupulous that Blood Blade Island Master became more worried. Could it be that the Qin family's experts have arrived? No, the 2 camps over there are currently in a stalemate. Moreover, they are both monitoring and intimidating each other. If either side makes any movements, the other side will not miss this opportunity. If the people over there made any movements, I would definitely have received the news. But now it seems that they haven't. Moreover, if they really want to rush over from there, it will take a longer time. It is impossible for them to arrive so quickly. The island master of Bloodblade Island tapped on the armchair with his fingers. After a while he looked up and asked, "Did our people see any special experts among Qin Dong's guards?" "Yes," the skinny old man said. "According to the information from our spies, there is indeed one more person besides Qin Dong. That person is wearing a gray robe and a gray mask." Gray robe? Gray mask? The island master's face suddenly changed. Heaven-cleaving alliance. It's the Heaven-cleaving alliance. The Heaven-cleaving alliance has interfered. This is troublesome. The Bloodblade Island master frowned. The Bloodblade Island master definitely knew about the Heaven-cleaving alliance, which was famous and powerful in the beginning divine realm. Moreover, he had always respected the Heaven-cleaving alliance, and did not dare to offend them. The gray robe and the gray mask were obviously the attire of the Heaven-cleaving alliance's experts. "Sir, our spies also sent news that the person wearing the gray robe mask is a divine master," the thin and weak old man said. Chapter 2991. Kill without mercy. What did you say? The Bloodblade Island master's voice suddenly became excited. He looked at the thin and weak old man in surprise. "Our people did say so," the thin and weak old man said immediately. "Divine Master? Are you sure he saw clearly that the extra Heaven-cleaving alliance expert is just a divine master?" The Bloodblade Island master said in disbelief. "He's very sure, but it's also possible that that person intentionally concealed his aura, and our people can't see through it," the thin and weak elder said. "It's possible." The island master nodded. "But no matter what, since we've already found Qin Dong's location, for the sake of that huge bounty, regardless of whether the Heaven-cleaving alliance person concealed his strength or not, we have to give it a try. Pass down the order." Everyone set off immediately. With the order of the Bloodblade Island master, the experts of the Bloodblade Island immediately moved. In the void above the vast sea, Jian Wushuang and his group were still moving forward without any fear. But at this moment, whoosh, 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 dozens of figures rushed over at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived in front of Jian Wushuang and the others. After the dozens of figures stopped, their powerful auras immediately pressed down on Jian Wushuang and the others. Looking at the group of experts, Jian Wushuang's eyes were still cold, but Qin Dong, Uncle Lei, and the guards of their team looked extremely gloomy. Bloodblade Island is one of the 4 overlords. The leader of the people of Bloodblade Island is Bloodblade Island Master. My God, half of the 30 people are immortal saints. Even the Bloodblade Island Master came here personally. How can we resist such a lineup? Bloodblade Island Master is said to be a true saint at the peak of rank 1. The guards were all filled with fear. Uncle Lei and Qin Dong were also very nervous. "Haha, the boy of the Qin family finally let me find you." The Bloodblade Island Lord had a cold smile on his face, and his voice shook the sky. He glanced at the people in front of him, and when he saw Qin Dong, his eyes immediately lit up. Of course, he also saw Jian Wushuang. Is this the expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The Bloodblade Island Lord also took a careful look at Jian Wushuang. He looked left and right, and finally came to a conclusion. Divine Master. He is indeed just a Divine Master. The smile on the Bloodblade Island Master's face grew wider. Uncle Lei, what should we do? Qin Dong was so nervous that he was trembling. Don't be anxious. Let's look at the Heavenly Sword Marquis first. Since he is so confident, he must have some tricks up his sleeves. Maybe he can really stop the Bloodblade Island Master. As long as he can stop the Bloodblade Island Master for a moment, I can take you away, young master. Uncle Lei said in a deep voice. He was a Peak Falls Saint, and among the Peak Falls Saints, he was an extremely powerful existence. As long as he did not meet a true saint, he was not afraid at all. Although there were more than a dozen immortal saints in front of him, the Bloodblade Island Master was the only true saint expert. If the Bloodblade Island Master was stopped by Jian Wushuang and could not free his hands, he was sure to take Qin Dong away. Under everyone's gaze, Jian Wushuang finally raised his eyes. I want to take this man away. Anyone who stands in my way will be killed without mercy. Jian Wushuang pointed at Qin Dong with one hand, and his cold voice came out of his mouth, wantonly spilling out in the vast sea. Hearing Jian Wushuang's words, not only the Bloodblade Island, but also Qin Dong and the others were stunned. They had never expected Jian Wushuang to say such words as soon as he opened his mouth. He would kill anyone who stood in his way without mercy? Was he not too domineering? Do not forget, the people standing in front of him were all the top experts of Bloodblade Island. There were more than 10 false saints, and a true saint at the peak of rank 1. How could he dare to say that he would kill anyone who stood in his way? Get lost! Jian Wushuang shouted angrily again, his voice rolling like thunder. You're courting death. The experts of Bloodblade Island were all furious. They were not frightened by a mere divine master. In an instant, many figures burst out. Seeing this scene, killing intent flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. If you don't get lost, you'll die. Boom! Jian Wushuang suddenly stepped on the void and shot out like a cannonball. As he shot out, a large amount of golden divine power began to roll out from his body. 7-star secret skill, divine punishment, and 9 luminary star armor had been used at the same time. He slowly raised the long sword in his hand, and sword essence burst out. Whoosh! He directly slashed out. This sword seemed calm, but in fact the moment it was slashed out, it had already brought Jian Wushuang's sword essence and the power of the 33,000-meter-tall boundless sword tree to the maximum. Buzz buzz buzz. A large amount of space-time rules condensed together with the sword essence, forming one space-time blade after another. Countless space-time blades fused with the sword essence. Space-time rules and swordsmanship were perfectly combined. Boom! A huge storm rose out of thin air. This storm was like the wrath of heaven and earth. After it swept out, it immediately set off a world-destroying tsunami on the surface of the sea. It was the 9th move of the space-time swordsmanship, Storm. This sword move, the experts of Bloodblade Island, who were full of killing intent, and wanted to kill Jian Wushuang on the spot, changed their expressions when they saw the terrifying sword-edge storm. Even the master of Bloodblade Island was shocked. Such a terrifying sword attack made his heart palpitate. Buzz buzz buzz. The huge blade storm covered all the experts of Bloodblade Island, and then endless sword essence burst out at the same time. This power was extremely terrifying. Even if it covered all the experts of Bloodblade Island, and faced more than 30 people at the same time, the power was not something an ordinary expert could withstand. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. A large number of sounds that sounded like the tip of a sword entering one's body rang out continuously, like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. In an instant, nearly half of the more than 30 experts of Bloodblade Island were killed on the spot. The weaker ones were killed on the spot. Although the remaining people survived this sword blade storm, most of them suffered a portion of the power, and did not feel good. But at this moment, be careful, a mournful roar suddenly sounded. A ghostly voice appeared behind a false saint of Bloodblade Island at some point in time. Then a sword light lit up. The false saint did not have time to react. The sword light had already passed through his neck, and his entire head was thrown away. Whoosh! A strange figure flashed and appeared next to the second false saint. With the same sword attack, the second head was sent flying again. Chapter 2992, Sweep. Hua, 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 hua. The strange figure kept on flashing with lightning, and in the void, heads were cut off one by one like wheat being cut off. In less than a breath's time, 8 of the 10 or so immortal saints of Bloody Blade Island had been killed on the spot. This terrifying slaughter speed scared the remaining false saints of Blood Blade Island to death. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang's figure burst out again. Stop! Bloodblade Island Master let out a fierce roar. His eyes turned completely scarlet, and his body shot toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang stopped the slaughter and glanced at Bloodblade Island Master. Then he held the sword with one hand. Buzz! A majestic sword shadow suddenly slashed out with the boundless sword tree, which was 3,300 meters tall. A scarlet saber appeared in the Bloodblade Island Master's hand. It was a blood saber. As he raised his hands, a vast blood chi rose. The Bloodblade Island Master seemed to be in a frenzy. At this moment, he had exerted the divine power in his hands to the maximum. Hua! The saber light slashed over and collided with the majestic sword shadow. Dang! A loud sound rang out. A terrifying shock wave swept out wantonly, raising the entire surface of the sea below. At the center of the collision, the Bloodblade Island Master's pupils suddenly shrank. In the next moment, a terrifying force crushed his saber light easily and continued to strike his divine body. So, the Bloodblade Island Master was like a meteor falling from the sky and crashed into the sea below. A moment later he rushed out of the sea again. However, after he rushed out of the sea, the madness and killing intent on his face had disappeared. What replaced it was shock. This guy is clearly just a divine master, but his strength is completely superior to mine? He's too strong. His strength is too strong, and his speed is also far faster than mine. I don't even have a 10% chance of winning in a fight with him. Let's run. Without any hesitation, the Bloodblade Island Master immediately turned around and fled. Since he was like this, the remaining undying saints on the Bloodblade Island, who had long been scared out of their wits, naturally fled frantically. Jian Wushuang, on the other hand, watched them flee. He had no intention of pursuing them. He only slowly went forward to collect his spoils of war. It should be known that he had just killed a total of 8 immortal saints in an instant. This was also the largest number of immortal saints he had killed since he began cultivating. Even though the 8 immortal saints were only false saints, and each of them had an average wealth of about 1 million sacred elixirs, it was still a considerable harvest. After all of this was done, Jian Wushuang turned to look at Qin Dong, Uncle Lei, and the others. It was a slow scene. In fact, from Jian Wushuang slaughtering the 8 immortal saints to forcing the Bloodblade Island Master to flee in panic, it was all done in a very short time. Qin Dong, Uncle Lei, and their guards were already stunned by the scene in front of them. To be exact, they were not stunned, but completely stunned. More than 30 experts, more than 10 immortal saints, and even the master of Bloodblade Island, a powerful true saint at the peak of Stage 1, were all sent out by Bloodblade Island. They had no confidence in dealing with such a huge lineup. Qin Dong and Uncle Lei were even praying that Jian Wushuang would be able to hold off the master of Bloodblade Island for a while. But what happened? In a split second, more than half of the experts of the Bloodblade Island had been killed, and only a few had escaped. The Bloodblade Island Master had been pushed back, and he had also fled in panic. And the one who had done all this was Heavenly Sword Marquis, who was only exuding the aura of a divine master. He. Qin Dong pointed at Jian Wushuang, his eyes glazed over. He did not know what to say. Young master, watch your behavior. Don't anger this lord, Uncle Lei shouted. Qin Dong was stunned, but he immediately realized what had happened and quickly withdrew his finger. However, he still could not calm down for a long time. After a long time, Uncle Lei managed to calm down. After exhaling, He walked toward Jian Wushuang. Thank you, Lord Heavenly Sword Marquis, for helping my young master defeat the Bloodblade Island. Uncle Lei said in awe. I'm just trying to complete my task. There's no need to thank me. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and said, All right, let's continue. After saying that, Jian Wushuang did not look back and directly rushed forward. Qin Dong, Uncle Lei, and the others immediately followed him. In contrast, Qin Dong and the others were nervous and worried that they would not be able to leave the Godless Sea area alive. But now that they had witnessed Jian Wushuang's strength, their emotions disappeared instantly. Uncle Lei, we have come to the right person, Qin Dong whispered. Yes, we have come to the right person. Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed very powerful. Judging from the battle strength he just displayed, he has at least the battle strength of a peak rank 1 true saint. He is even very powerful among peak rank 1 true saints. At least, the island master of Bloodblade Island is no match for him. With his protection, we should be able to leave the Godless Sea area smoothly, Uncle Lei said with a smile. Heavenly Sword Marquis is very powerful, but I'm curious. Is he really just a divine master, or has he been hiding his aura all this time? Qin Dong frowned. Well, he should be hiding his aura. If he's really just a divine master, then his talent is too terrifying. Such a terrifying genius has already entered the legendary 3 palaces of Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. How could he appear here? Uncle Lei said. He also thought that Jian Wushuang should have concealed his aura. Then why did he conceal his aura? I feel that concealing his aura is not of much use. Qin Dong asked in puzzlement. Who knows? Maybe Heavenly Sword Marquis is used to playing the pig to eat the tiger? Uncle Lei said. Qin Dong was startled, then he smiled. Forget it. Whether Heavenly Sword Marquis conceals his aura or not has nothing to do with us. As long as we can leave the Godless Sea area in peace, we will be fine. When we return to the clan and resolve the internal conflict, I will lead the experts of the clan to wipe out the Godless Sea area and turn the 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area into stray dogs. Uncle Lei could not help but smile. Because of Jian Wushuang's absolute strength, Qin Dong, Uncle Lei, and the guards were much more relaxed. But in fact, Jian Wushuang knew that his mission was not so simple. He would probably encounter a lot of trouble later. Chapter 2993. Peak Level 1, 4 of them. On the vast sea surface of the Godless Sea area, the island master of the Bloodblade Island and the remaining few immortal saints of Bloodblade Island stood there, their faces extremely unsightly. They're here. The island master of the Bloodblade Island suddenly raised his head. At the end of the void in front of him, more than 10 figures were rushing over. Haha, Bloodblade Island master. From the looks of it, you seem to be in a bit of a sorry state? Hearty laughter rang out. The person who had let out this laughter was a burly bald man. This bald man came before the island master of the Bloodblade Island. His violent aura was not the slightest bit inferior to that of the peak stage first true saint. Thanks. This is also the first time I've seen the island master of Bloodblade Island in such a state. Delicate laughter rang out. The person who spoke was a red-clothed young lady. This red-clothed young lady looked delicate and moving, but her eyes were extremely cold, just like the edge of a blade. I've received news that your Bloodblade Island has already found the location of that Qin Dong. Moreover, all of you have directly charged over. However, looking at the current situation, I'm afraid that all of you haven't succeeded. Moreover, you've even suffered a small loss. Another black-robed handsome youth said in a low voice. The burly bald man, the red-clothed girl, and the black-robed cold youth were all peak rank 1 true saints. They were shockingly the rulers of the other 3 overlords of the Godless Sea area. Alright, the 3 of you, let's cut the unnecessary nonsense. The reason I called you here is to discuss with you how to kill that Qin Dong, said the island master of Bloodblade Island. Bloodblade, as far as I know, that young master of the Qin family doesn't have many experts with him. He doesn't even have a true saint. With the strength of your Bloodblade Island, as long as you find their existence, it should be very easy to kill them, right? How did it become like this? The burly bald man asked. I also thought that it was a must. In the end, I didn't expect the Qing clan to use such a great method to invite an expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to help. The Bloodblade Island master said in a low voice. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The expressions of the burly bald man, the red-robed girl, and the black-robed cold-looking young man all changed. Is this expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance very strong? The red-clothed girl immediately asked. But on the surface he doesn't look strong. He's only at the Divine Master level, but he must have hidden his aura. His combat strength is so strong that, to put it bluntly, he's much stronger than any one of the four of us, the island master of the Bloodblade Island said. Once this expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance makes a move, he directly massacred many experts of our Bloodblade Island with great methods. Let alone divine masters, even the immortal saint of our Bloodblade Island has no chance to struggle in his hands. In just an instant, more than half of the people of our Bloodblade Island were slaughtered by him. Even the immortal saint was killed by 8 of them. When he made his move, he only casually swung his sword. That terrifying power still completely crushed me. I estimate that this person's strength should have already reached the limit of a rank 1 true saint, and he should be very close to a rank 2 true saint. So powerful. The bald man, the red-robed girl, and the cold-looking black-robed young man all turned solemn. Bloodblade Island Master. If you say it like this, any of us who meet that expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will be slaughtered. The red-robed girl said seriously. The 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area were about the same level of strength. That expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance could easily slaughter everyone from Bloodblade Island. After killing so many experts from Bloodblade Island, naturally, he could also slaughter the other 3 overlords. It's like this. That's why I've gathered them together now. The island master of the Bloodblade Island said seriously. Although that person from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is powerful, he is only one person after all. In a one-on-one fight, none of us is his match. However, if 4 of us fight one person, he will only be crushed by us. 4 against 1? The burly bald man, the red-clothed girl, and the black-robed cold-looking youth looked at each other in dismay before nodding secretly. Indeed, according to what the island master had said, none of them would be enough for that expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to slaughter them. Thus, they could only join forces from all 4 sides and join forces completely. However, if the 4 peak Tier 1 true saints attacked at the same time unless they encountered a Tier 2 true saint, otherwise, they would be able to suppress him. The 3 of you, this time, the other faction of the Qing clan, has given us quite sufficient rewards. Even if we join forces from all 4 sides and split the rewards, we will still receive quite a lot of rewards. How about it? Whether we join forces or not, you can decide. The Bloodblade Island Master said. We can join forces. The burly bald man said. I have no objections. The red-clothed girl nodded. In that case, let's work together. The cold-looking young man in the black robe agreed. The 4 of them reached an agreement. Soon, the experts of the 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area set off immediately. Jian Wushuang and his group had been flying at high speed in the Godless Sea area. They did not hide their tracks at all. It was certainly not difficult for the experts of the 4 overlords to find them. Soon, whoosh, 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 a large group of experts rushed over from the front and arrived in front of Jian Wushuang and the others in the blink of an eye. Oh no, it's the people of the Bloodblade Island again. Except for the Bloodblade Island, the others. Luogod Island, Monster Snow Island and Black Wind Island. Oh no, the 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area are all here. Qin Dong's guards were all stunned. How is this possible? How can this be? Uncle Lei's eyes were wide open, and his face was filled with disbelief. The 4 overlords of the Godless Sea area usually fight for benefits. They have deep grudges against each other. But why are the 4 overlords working together today? Benefits. It must be for benefits. Qin Dong's expression was also extremely unsightly. It looks like the people over there have invested a lot of capital and given extremely high rewards. This is why the 4 overlords can forget about their past grudges and work together to kill me. How ruthless. Looking at the many experts of the 4 islands in front of them, especially the 4-peaked Tier 1 true saints, standing at the very front, Qin Dong's guards could not help but feel a sense of despair. Of course, they had not completely lost hope yet. After all, they still had a chance of survival. This chance of survival was the man in a gray robe and a gray mask standing in front of them. Lord Heavenly Sword Marquis. Uncle Lei also looked at Jian Wushuang. Now Jian Wushuang was their only hope. Only Jian Wushuang could let them live. Are all the experts of the 4 overlords gathered? Jian Wushuang's face under the mask was extremely cold, and his body emitted an unusually cold and black aura. His eyes showed no emotion as he glanced at the people in front of him. He had long guessed that this mission was not so simple, so he was not too surprised by the appearance of these experts. Chapter 2994. Destroy. When Jian Wushuang looked at the experts of the 4 overlords, the experts of the 4 overlords also stared at him. Is he the expert of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The burly bald man narrowed his eyes. He doesn't look very impressive. The black-robed, cold-looking young man said. His aura is indeed at the Divine Master level. How strange, the red-robed girl said. The 3 of you don't underestimate him. His combat strength is far stronger than any of us. The Island Master of Bloodblade Island said seriously. Don't worry. We're not stupid, the red-robed girl said with a smile. Cut the crap. Let's attack directly, the burly bald man said in a low voice. Okay. The 4 of them communicated with each other and made up their minds. Kill. As the Master of Bloodblade Island shouted, the experts of the 4 overlords, including the 4-peak rank 1 true saints, all attacked at the same time. For a moment, a terrifying aura burst out one after another, pressing down on them from all directions. The moment they attacked, Jian Wushuang also moved. His eyes were cold, and his body turned into a stream of light as he dashed out. His eyes were unusually cold as he stared at the people in front of him. There are many experts from the 4 overlords. There are more than 20 immortal saints and 4 true saints at the peak of rank 1. With so many experts, as long as these 4 peak of rank 1 true saints can hold me back, the others can directly kill me. Qin Dong's subordinates won't be able to resist for long. Once Qin Dong is killed, my mission will fail. I can't give them a chance to fight. I have to use all my strength to defeat them. Even if I can't kill them, I have to intimidate them, so that they won't dare to continue fighting. Jian Wushuang thought quickly, and made up his mind. Boom! A vast golden divine power surged wildly. Jian Wushuang had already used the 7-star secret skill, the divine punishment skill, and the 9 luminary star armor. His battle strength immediately rose to the peak. Then he waved his hand. Swish! 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 Streams of cyan streamers formed by the star Luo swords rushed out. These cyan streamers shuttled rapidly in the void, and then floated in front of Jian Wushuang. Condense! Jian Wushuang uttered a word, and the 18-star Luo swords immediately condensed together at the fastest speed. In an instant rumble, an earth-shaking rumble sounded, and a huge spiral tunnel with the power of endless reincarnation rules appeared between heaven and earth. This spiral tunnel was like the reincarnation tunnel that led to reincarnation. It was mysterious, vast, and unfathomable. However, in this reincarnation tunnel, a brilliant green light was faintly discernible. Go! Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold, and the faintly discernible green light in the reincarnation passage suddenly burst out. The green light was extremely long and carried a huge green tail. It was dozens of meters long, but it was not large in size, but it was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already appeared in front of the burly bald man who was the fastest. This sword formation. The burly bald man's pupils constricted. He was a true saint at the peak of stage 1. He had extraordinary knowledge and sharp senses. The moment Jian Wushuang's reincarnation sword formation burst out, he had already sensed that the power of this sword formation was extraordinary. The burly bald man did not dare to be careless. His body was instantly filled with an evil aura, and a huge axe appeared in his hand. As he held the huge axe with both hands, Hua! The axe, which seemed to be able to split mountains and break mountains, suddenly descended. The axe shadow reached the sky and collided with the green light. Dang! A low sound of collision rang out. The moment the huge axe in his hand came into contact with the green light, it has already struck. What? The expression of the burly bald man suddenly changed, and his gaze became extremely shocked. He could feel the terrifying power contained within the green light. This power completely surpassed his, completely crushing him. But one had to know that he was a peak stage rank 1 true saint, and his forte was power, yet he was completely crushed? Rank 2. This is the power of a rank 2 true saint. The burly bald man let out a cry of surprise, but the green light continued to charge toward his body. Bang! The green light hit the burly bald man's body, and the burly bald man spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body shot backward like a cannonball. With just one attack, the burly bald man's body was heavily injured. However, before he could stabilize himself, the cyan light shook slightly, and then came at him for the second time. This time, the bald man did not even have the chance to wave his axe to defend himself. Bang! Under the terrifying power contained in the cyan light, the bald man's divine body finally collapsed. This scene stunned the Bloodblade Island master, the red-robed girl, and the black-robed cold-looking young man, who was about to rush to Jian Wushuang. Their expressions were also very interesting. In just 2 moves, the divine body of the Lord of the Luo God Island, who has the strongest attack power among the 4 of us, actually collapsed. The red-robed girl muttered. Whoosh! A large amount of divine power began to gather crazily. In just a moment, the body of the burly bald man has formed again. However, after his divine body was formed, he did not stop for even a moment. Instead, he fled backward at his fastest speed. As he fled, he hissed, Bloodblade Island Master, you lied to me. Aye. The Bloodsaber Island Master was also at a loss. He did not know how to answer. He knew why the burly bald man would say that. When the 4 of them met, he said that although Jian Wushuang's battle strength was stronger than his, it was not too outrageous. With their combined battle strength, they could easily contend with Jian Wushuang, and even completely crush him. That was why the 4 of them joined hands to kill him. But now, when they actually saw Jian Wushuang fight with him, in just 2 moves, the burly bald man's divine body was severely damaged. In the second move, the bald man's divine body directly collapsed. The 2 moves were completed in a flash. In such a short time, the bald man's divine body had collapsed once. What kind of strength was this? A first-rank true saint, even an expert who had reached the peak of the first rank, could not do this. Obviously, this expert from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had the combat power of a second-level true saint, and he was probably a strong existence among second-level true saints. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.